friends, and welcome back to Noclip's Game of the Year Extravaganza. It's the final one. It's the final podcast. Thank you. I was hoping one of you would.
I got you. Yep.
I also believe it's episode 157, I'm going to say, of the Noclip podcast. Thank you all so much for joining us. Our Battle Pass holders will get a shout out in the middle during the intermission. But I am happy to be joined by three people who are the opposite of Battle Pass holders. They actually take money out of Noclip to make content instead of paying for content to be produced. See, it's a beautiful symmetry. It's like it rhymes. Jeremy Jane, Jesse Gracia, and Frank Howley. We have three fantastic people who are not me here to talk about games, and we have three fantastic video games to talk about. Today we're going to talk about Baldur's Gate 3, Midnight Suns, and Alan Wake 2. But before we do that, gentlemen, shall we get down to the good business of trying to get some awards for these previous winners? What do you think?
Yeah, let's do it now. Absolutely. It's a good way to warm up to when we have to do it later.
That's a good point. It's like just get the juices flowing. Mm-hmm. If you are new to the podcast, you should not listen to this as the first podcast. That'd be insane. But if you have done and you're determined to stick with it, we have picked our 10 plus 1 favorite games of 2023. We have talked about them on the past, the first of our 4 Game of the Year podcasts. We picked them, and then the past 3 we have taken a selection of them and talked them up a bunch and then given them their own awards. Slayers X won the Zane Lofton Lifetime Achievement Award. Final Fantasy 16 won Best AMV. Resident Evil 4 Remake won Master of Remaking. Homebody won... oh no, it doesn't have its one yet. Sorry. Bomb Rush Cyberpunk won Best Dreamcast Game. Wink. Or thumbs up. Dave the Diver got the Hidden Depth Award. And we are still waiting to give awards to Homebody, Blasphemous 2, and Typecast, although we have Keyboard Warrior in as a sort of stand-in over there. Have any of you guys been struck with any inspiration for any of these ones overnight, first of all?
I think I got one for Homebody.
Okay. What you got?
Okay, so I'm going to say this. I feel like the first impulse, the first reaction is probably going to be, oh, that's too specific and personal to you, and therefore a bad superlative.
Jeremy's favorite game.
It's the Jeremy Jane annual game of the no. Okay, it's let me say it. I'm just gonna say it, and then I will explain the layers to it.
Okay.
The Closest to Home Award.
Okay, now, that's good actually. That is
multiple
good.
reasons. It is a game that takes place in a spooky house. It is a game about agoraphobia. It is a game about a lot of mental health issues that like I personally struggle with OCD. It's a game largely about OCD, but I don't think it's too specific to me because I think the game is also about depression, anxiety, alienation from people, getting older, the things that come with that. And I think that this is a game that does a lot of horror things. It's a great survival horror game. It's a great puzzle game. But I think the thing that really makes it special is the way that it handles its themes and the way that its themes are pervasive in its gameplay elements. And so I think that Closest to Home is, it has layers to it, but I think it hits on what's special about this game.
And it works too, because in your house, you have an electric lock that's, you have to use a pipe dream puzzle to open. So it's actually, it's multiple, so many layers.
This game takes place in my house.
I figured as much.
Made sense. Yeah. I mean, I think that works well. We've all talked about our various mental health over the years, weight we've carried and stuff. So I think it does apply to probably everyone here in some respect, I imagine. I think that it's I don't know, like I think that's the reason why it's on this list, right? Is that it's not just a puzzle horror game, right? It's the fact that it sort of weaves in a lot of this stuff which feels very personal. It's not like it's weaving in a narrative that's interesting but is not maybe for you. Like there's something about this that feels like it's made for people who have anxiety or agoraphobia or OCD or things like that, as opposed to any other game which may or may not get this type of name on their award. Yeah, I like that. What do you guys think?
Yeah, no, I have no issue with that name. Sounds good. I like Jeremy's reasoning for it.
We need the Frank Howley seal of approval.
No, I wish I'd played more of it, but it being about OCD, it also being a survival horror game within a house, it's a very fitting award. So yeah, I approve.
Is
Frank, you're gonna like this game. Frank, play this game over the holidays. If you
I just
have
wish there was
time. I know
like
you're busy
guns
as
in
hell.
it or monster. You know, I just need. Or I can just put like a GIF overlay of guns going off.
There you go.
I should try it because the art style alone was very cool.
Just put
Yeah.
that like
No, I think you'll like
Wolfenstein bottom part of the screen. Just tape that to the bottom of your monitor. Are you wearing a ICP Christmas shirt, by the way?
No, that's in GCW. There's a tag team called Insane Clown Bussy. Violent
Okay.
J teamed up with Effie and Ellie Catch to form Insane Clown Bussy.
Wow.
That's unbelievable.
Dude, I need to get into wrestling. I'm doing the wrong hobby over here.
I was wrong about what the shirt was, but it was even better. That's like only in the world of Frank Kelly does that happen.
I love that the word bussy was cut off by the bottom of the frame as well. It's such a nice
Yeah.
reveal.
I just assumed. I saw a Y and insane. What? Yeah, there you go. Merry Christmas to Violent J and Shaggy Too Dope. Is that it?
Yeah.
There we go. I wasn't sure if it was Scotty Too Hottie and Grandmaster Sensei. Which one is that? Rafiki part of the ICP?
Yeah, Rafiki.
Rafiki. Whatever. So we'll get to stink faces later. I had one for Blasphemous 2.
Let's hear it.
I'm not sure if it necessarily entirely works, but I like the feel of it. Catholic Guilty Treasure.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
The idea is so good. It takes a little brain power to understand the cleverness of it. But I think it's
you got to find the
good. I
word
think it's
breaks
worth-
inside of the words, and then like
Yeah.
Catholic guilt, treasure instead of pleasure. Like,
Oh, it's good. Sorry, I meant pleasure. The problem
okay,
there is
okay.
I have a giant bomb show called Guilty Treasures,
Yeah.
and I got it confused. I meant Catholic
advertising it.
Guilty Pleasure. Is
Yeah.
better. Yeah, Catholic. What do we think of that?
Yes.
I'd like treasure
I
more.
like that.
No, I'm just kidding.
Well, that's
No, pleasures.
I guess there's an argument that it's not a guilty pleasure. It's just a good game.
Yeah.
Like, I don't not like it in any way, but yeah, I don't know. I think it kind of works. The Catholic part seems like it's one of the main reasons why I like this game. It's just how it feels close to some part of me in that way. So
It's either that or we go with Metropolitan Museum of Art, and I think Catholic Guilty Pleasure is better.
they're both sort of they're both coming at the problem from other sides of the river. You know what I mean? Yeah, that's a good shout. Okay, then that's everything with Typecast locked in. So, do we have any? I was trying to see. I thought I saw one on the YouTube comments.
There was a good YouTube or Discord comment of someone using the phrase alpha bullet hell, which is like clever, but that feels more like a marketing term than an award. But alpha bullet hell is still a good, I like that word.
It's a good description, but it mightn't be a good award is the only problem.
Yeah.
That is good though. That's some good wordplay. We love wordplay. It's just a wordplay awards,
Yeah,
really.
really.
Yeah, I've been struggling to think of one for this. I still think Typer Elite is very funny, but it's just a dumb joke. It's not really a good award name. Yeah, I don't know. I've been struggling so much with this one because the things that I like about it are so, I don't know, hard to describe in a pithy little idiom. You know what I mean? It's just like, it's fun, it's frenetic, it's arcadey, it transforms my keyboard into a controller in a very unique way. It's like maybe, I don't know, there's something very unique about the control scheme that I feel like is praiseworthy, but I don't know if that's the thing that it gets the superlative.
Maybe you
for.
can get tactile in there because the keyboards, they have the tactile bump if you get a mechanical keyboard.
Yeah. That's
There's a little bit of tactics to your positioning and like where you're going and your path and everything.
If we can, tactile is a long word to try and get in. Is there any idioms or?
The only I keep thinking of tactical nuke, and I was like tactile nuke, but that doesn't make any sense. What are phrases that have the word tactical in them?
What about what if you take the keyboard out and just have key, like key, because then key works as keyboard, but key. I feel like there's a million and one different things that key could be.
Yeah, I had the idea. I don't think it really fits, but I had the idea ischemic keystroke because this game overloads my brain so much. I just think it's in bad taste.
What's ischemic?
It's a type of stroke.
Oh, right. There you go. Okay.
Can we call it the subchemal hematoma? Like subdermal key hematoma. Let's go with that one.
Why do I love that so much? Oh, man. Yeah, this is a really
That's so
hard
funny
one.
because I actually earlier was like subdermal like hematoma. How do I make a joke for that for Typecast? So you're just coming in with the stroke jokes on your own.
Yeah.
Well done. Happy holidays, folks.
Happy holidays.
All right. I don't know. Yeah. Will you come back to it again, or is there any?
I got no juice for that right now.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll come back to typecast. Typecast is perhaps on theme, is a difficult one to find the right word for it. Okay, let's jump into our 3 games from today then. Let's just jump headfirst into Baldur's Gate 3. Arguably, game of the year by most outlets. I feel like a couple of people picked Zelda. Yeah, most of us stopped playing Zelda after a couple of hours because we didn't like it. So we're a little bit different maybe in that case. But generally, broadly accepted as a fantastic contribution to the world of video games, a great achievement, a real new sort of benchmark for role-playing games and interactivity. Not just that, but presentation and story and characterization and all that sort of stuff. Those folks over at Larian have been banging down the RPG drawer for a long time and really busted through with Baldur's Gate 3. So fair play to them and congratulations on all their many awards. I'm sure this will be the one that they are the most excited about. So who wants to take up conversation on Baldur's Gate 3? Has anyone? So I should mention, first of all, we had a little chat before this. We are going to work incredibly hard to not spoil anything. We're not going to talk about story stuff for any 3 of these games. We're going to keep it as vague as possible. If we need to get in any way specific about stuff, we're going to keep it in Baldur's Gate 3 to the first act and in Alan Wake 2 to the first opening couple of hours, but we'll even endeavor in that respect to try and not do too much of that. First of all, I'm just out of interest. I played a bunch over the weekend, still in chapter 1. This game is so long. Oh my God. Have any of you guys completed it or gotten into the further chapters?
I'm getting close. I've been struggling with Act 3. Not from a difficulty perspective. It's just the again, I'm going to talk around spoilers very, very delicately.
Just say you're having difficulty with Act 3.
Just say you hate it. Just say it's bad.
Okay, yeah,
and it makes you want to take it
I
off
have
the
specific
list.
things, but yeah, you're right. I don't want to risk spoiling anything for anyone, but I'm having trouble. It's not like a gameplay difficulty thing. I'm having difficulties completing it for other reasons.
Cool. So you're there. Anyone else gotten further than that, or?
I'm in the middle of Act 2. That's about it.
Cool. Frank, what about you?
And still in Act 1.
Cool. Yeah.
Act 1 is long.
Act 1 Frank did a lot of gameplay in Act 1, so he's played a lot of Act 1 for us. Okay, who wants to take this one up then? Jeremy, do you want to talk about it? I feel like if you're furthest, we should start off with you.
Yeah, for sure. So Divinity Original Sin 2, one of Larian's previous games, was one of my favorite RPGs of all time. I loved this game so much that before I had the Noclip editing PC in my home, I played Divinity Original Sin 2 on NVIDIA's GeForce game stream service on my my shitty MacBook. I streamed the entire game. I think I played 150 hours on a server farm in Las Vegas on my shitty laptop. I absolutely love what Larian does. I think they create brilliant worlds. I think their systems are unbelievable. And Baldur's Gate 3 is, it's very, like, there have been maybe a dozen games since I was a child where I was so excited about them that I was having internal conflict of like, should I look at previews so I can like look at the menu while I'm waiting in the restaurant foyer, or do I just like go in totally blind? So Baldur's Gate 3 I've been looking forward to for a long time. And it is almost certainly my favorite game of this year. It is an incredibly dense, massive RPG world. It creates for me, what Larian does with open worlds is kind of it's like the antidote for what I don't like about open world games typically, which is that Larian games they're open worlds, but they're so incredibly dense that every step you take, you'll like find a treasure chest that's cursed, and then there's like a goblin inside of it, and you'll trip over it, and then you'll be like, oh, well, that was crazy. That was 30 minutes of my life. And you walk 2 feet down the road, and there's like a witch being like, will you come inside? Like, it's just constant. And I love that. Like, it doesn't, I think I've said this before about Divinity Original Sin 2, but if you zoom out on one of Larian's worlds, I think their maps probably look smaller than they feel.
Right.
Like, I think they probably look almost like board game-ish or game boardish. But I think the density and the level of care and design that goes into every square inch of them feels like it just feels massive. I think there's a big difference between an open world that is like spatially massive and one that is experientially massive. And I think Baldur's Gate 3 is like a game that inside of my mind is like an entire world. And yeah, just the level of freedom of player choice, of like divergent choice, of ways of player expression. I imagine you could play this game that is like 80, 100 hours, depending on your play style. I think you could play this game a dozen times and keep seeing new things in it. And it's just unbelievable.
It's one of those games where like, I feel like when you're playing it, it almost behooves you to watch someone else playing it too, because I feel like I had to disconnect from the way I automatically play games. Like there's so much interesting shit you can do that if you don't really stop and think about it, you're not going to do any of it. You're just going to go, oh, I'll use my magic missile, or I'll position my person here, or do that. It's all the like, oh, the developer thought of that moments, which are like, I know that's become a bit of a meme on YouTube, but it's like, oh, the developer thought of that. And it's like the most obvious thing ever. Like this game is the whole like, just the ability to like use spells to have, talk to animals, or do things with like interact with the physics of the world, or or like look into people's minds or whatever. Like you think like, oh, that's a thing I'll be able to do one time for this one reason or in this one spell. But then it actually creates this sort of like, ever expanding, Rubicon of things that you can do, and then people have combined them in the most like absolutely insane way. Some of them are like very like lore and reality breaking, but in a way that Baldur's Gate or Larian are just like, sure, like, yeah, if you want to figure out a way to get your archer to be higher than everyone all the time, we will let you do that. You know what I mean? We won't do a thing. So it's a game that I feel like I have to be like, I have to wear like, I have to put on I have to be in like, have a shower and put on the right clothes. And like, it's, you would go to a movie in the theater because you want to see it in the theater, and it's because you want to really enjoy it and pay attention. And I feel like that's the case for Baldur's Gate. I can't be too tired to play it. I need to like really soak it in. It's like Danny's special video game time. And like, I don't know. I feel like those games are few and far between more and more. And this is, yeah, I kind of don't want to play it because I don't want to waste it. You know what I mean? I'm trying to, it's like a good wine I have put away,
Totally. What do you guys think?
Yeah, no, that's a good way of putting it. It's the kind of game that you have to devote a lot of time and energy to, because like choices that you're making throughout it rely on your ability both to understand what's going on and to pay attention and to like remember characters, remember scenarios, and I think role play. Like if you're not considering what your character would or wouldn't do in certain scenarios, you don't get as much out of it. If you're always like, oh, like this quest, I'll take this because whatever, like you can still enjoy it and have fun with it. And the way that they've designed things, there's probably a choice you can make somewhere down the line that will result in your character still making a choice that, feels appropriate to them if you've made your own character and you're not playing one of the origin characters. But it's just because there's so many options, because there's so many things, because there's so much to do and so many places to go. And it really does feel like, and I mean, I've only played so much D&D. I mean, I played it for like 2 years with the same group, which is, a far cry from what most people get out of playing actual Dungeons and Dragons. But what I feel like when I'm playing it is I have a really good dungeon master sitting there with me, and they are very good improvisers. Obviously, this is not how the game works. Like, it's not like, the Sven or whoever from Larian is sitting there going like, oh yeah, okay, he did this. Let's add this character.
Right.
Like, but
feels that way.
But it feels that way. It feels like someone is like
totally
watching my computer and going like, oh, okay, they talked to this rat. Let's make it. Oh, it's been 20 hours. Bring the rat back. Like that. That's just a random. That's not something that happens. Or maybe it does. Who's to say? But it's just one of those
exactly.
games.
Who's it may given everything that happens in this game? Who knows? I mean, if not, there might be patching it in now.
Exactly. Yeah.
Frank, what's been your experience with Act 1? I'm so curious to hear you talk about this.
You got great gameplay.
No, thank you. So Baldur's Gate 3, I was very intimidated to play it because like it's a hardcore RPG, at least from my perspective. Like even I've tried playing D&D for a year and it was very advanced, like cantrips and all this like super level 2 spells, level 1 spells, having to rest to reset. It's like, I just want to play again, but playing it, my experience is it felt like playing World of Warcraft back when I was like vanilla WoW when it first came out, where it's like, this is a whole new type of game for me, but I'm getting my ass kicked and I'm dying a lot, but I want to learn. Like, very early on in the game, there was like a dungeon where I set off traps, and I spent such a long time like dragging my party and like reviving, trying to get out. And then I looked up a guy, and it's like, oh, you just had to turn off the switch over here. But the idea that I had such a thrilling like Indiana Jones adventure, it's like, oh, that was just my choice, and my naivety allowed this incredible thing. And like, I've tried to get better with certain games where it's like, no, the less you prep going into it, the better it is. And like, see, and like even when I was doing gameplay, I would do an encounter, and it's like, I bet there's another way of doing it. I would reload the save and go in a completely different direction, and like every outcome is fascinating. It's so well written. Like, you know, like I throughout the podcast, I'm always like, oh yeah, I started playing this and I started skipping cutscenes. Baldur's Gate 3, the writing is so charming. I mean, we haven't even broken into the individual characters, but like, it's the thing where it's like, oh, I want to know each person's backstory. I want to know their character, their perks, how they interact with one another. Every scenario, the open world element of like, as Jeremy said, like you walk and you have this incredible encounter, and then a few feet later is another incredible encounter, and it's like, I don't know, it doesn't feel like anything is filler. Everything is so clever. Everything is so charming. It's such a charming game. Yeah, I think I put maybe 15 to 20 hours into it, and like as Danny said, you got to be in the right mindset. I approach this game kind of like how I would play Persona games, which is like, I need a full 2-hour block of time set aside to like acclimate, get in the zone, and then like rest and like a plane take down and depart. Like, so yeah, it's marvelous because I generally had a great time playing it. It's a game I'm still eager to get into when I have like the peace of mind for it. But talking to all my friends, like I haven't even touched, like I had friends raving about doing co-op stuff, rolling different characters. Like there's so much to do. I can't even imagine how far deep.
Did any of you guys do the co-op stuff actually? I've not touched it. I don't tend to do that. I know, Jeremy, you did with Divinity, didn't you?
Yeah. I played it through solo, and then I got through maybe like a third of it with some friends, and then it's hard, you know, as with D&D groups, it's the true D&D experience. It's impossible to keep a group together.
Yeah, I played a little bit of the co-op with my fiance, and it was a lot of fun. I think like if you're gonna play it co-op, you kind of have to play it with somebody. Not have to, but I feel like you'll get a very unique experience if you play it with someone who knows nothing about Dungeons and Dragons, and preferably somebody who doesn't play a lot of RPGs. Because Cassie's way of doing it was, I thought, very funny and enjoyable. It's hard for us to sit down and play it because it is like, you know, we both have to have that mindset of like, it's time to sit down and play Dungeons and Dragons for 3 hours. But when we did get to play it, and the bit of the earlier part of the game that we did play, a lot of the scenarios, I play games very efficiently. I like know what I want to do with my characters. I know where I want to go and what I want to spend my time on. And usually it's everything, especially in a game like this. But Cassie's like, no, we're going over here. No, we're going over here. Let's do this. It's like we're at the grocery store and she's telling me what we're going to buy. It's great. She has the cart. I just push it. But in Dungeons and Dragons and in this game, in Baldur's Gate, it's just like, okay, this character wants, you know, what are we choosing between these two things? And I'm like, I don't want to do that. But she's like, let's do the stupid thing. And we do it. And it's like, I would never have picked that because I don't want my character to go down that route. But she does. And so I saw a totally different version of the game than I ever would have seen if I had played. And I did play a lot further on my own. And I feel like I didn't get a funny experience. I felt like I got the kind of experience I wanted, but it wasn't like a shot, like, whoa, like that could happen kind of playthrough.
That's kind of what I get into, I guess, with the, you know, mileage may vary, I guess, with who you're playing with, but I that's the issue of playing solo as well, I think, with a game like this, is that your sort of gravity is always pulling you back towards things you would do. And it's almost like a game where you need to get your first playthrough out of the way so then you can just kind of do your chaos run or whatever. Outside of one of the things that I think I'm most impressed with Baldur's Gate is the combat. Like it's a combat system that is like, you know, like D&D itself, just like incredibly complex, but and there are loads of ways to do complex battle systems, be it in role-playing stuff or you know, isometric games, or like, you know, 4X games is a great example of stuff like that. But this is so incredibly intuitive, weirdly intuitive. Like visually, it communicates everything and like so much of what it needs to. Like there isn't that much of a UI in this game, and even when you enter combat, it's not like the UI like goes, okay, here we go, we're going, you know, the battle fucking deck separates from the rest, the saucer section separates from the rest of the Enterprise, and you're suddenly like, okay, we're into battle mode. It's like, no, it's like other stuff comes up, but like you're still intuiting things like sight lines and, you know, which characters are in danger or what spells are on what cooldown or whatever. And then the fact that you can have characters who are not in the fight yet is what, and it works so effortlessly is insane. Like the amount of fights where I was having where, you know, you intentionally have someone off to the side doing nothing, and then they come in, like they're in real time just running around finding their way back behind somebody to flank them, or, you know, or lay traps, or do something, like be there, or even just distract people. Like it totally changes the rule set in a way that I was like, fuck, like I have to think about these encounters completely differently. Like, do I go in with one person and just bait all these people, and, or, you know, what's the crazy thing I can do here that I haven't thought of? Can I like become one of them, or can I like do something to their head to influence them, or all these things that, you know, usually when you're playing a lot of these games, you're just getting through them, you know.
Did you do much of that character party separation stuff outside of combat? Because you can do that while you're talking to characters as well.
Yeah, I guess it did come up a couple of times, and I think I was always I think there were so many different layers. There's so many things in Baldur's Gate 3 that I just haven't touched yet, because I still feel like I'm getting used to the systems that I'm playing with. You know what I mean? Like there's so, like, especially in the spells as well. Like that's a whole other thing where, like, you know, you level up a character, and then there's all these things, and you're like, Jesus, that one there looks fun, but it also I don't think I'll remember I have it. You know? I'll just it'll as a cantrip that'll sit on my cantrip belt for months and months, and I'll never see it. And one day I'll look at it and go, oh yeah, I forgot I had that thing. I should play that sometime. So similarly with that, I was like, oh, if I was a seasoned player of these games, or like a D&D master, I would probably do more of that. But I'm also like fairly early in the game comparatively, so maybe after a couple of hours I'll be excited to do it. But yeah, it just feels like there's so many parts of the game that feel special, you know, that it's hard to do any of it without really sitting down there and you're in a tuxedo and playing it properly, you know. Just and what a wonderful feeling, because it's like, I feel like we had this more growing up, and maybe that's just a byproduct of growing up, is that everything's new to a certain extent, but also just the rate of change in game design and technology was so insane when many of us were teenagers and in our early 20s that, like, you know, it's hard to, it's, you know, I remember for my first year of college when San Andreas and World of Warcraft came out, you're like, what the fuck? like just completely, you know. And Half-Life 2 was that year as well, and Counter-Strike Source was that year, and God knows what else. Like, it's just like, and you had those moments where you're like, oh, this is something I need to like relish. And I feel like I don't get that as much anymore. I get the opposite thing, which is like, oh, this is a game that's been out for a while, and you didn't realize it was amazing until now because the community is like Dwarf Fortress or stuff like that. You know what I mean? Like, there's lots of games like that where I eventually get around to it and I'm like, oh yeah, that is really cool. Whereas Baldur's Gate is one of these games where like everyone at the same time is like waiting for Santa to come down the chimney and hand this thing to them, you know. And it was as good and better as what people thought. It was better than what people thought, I think.
Yeah. The combat stuff I feel like ties directly into what you're saying, which is that like this experience it's not only special, but it's so multifaceted and multi-layered that I did this in Divinity Original Sin too, but I feel like Baldur's Gate 3 really amplifies it, where when I'm approaching a situation, whether it's a dialogue tree or like a combat situation, I find myself saving right before and completing it, and if it's a satisfactory thing, I'll save it, but then I'll come back to the previous save and just see what different outcomes are. Like not ad infinitum, not so that I'm gonna like ruin all future playthroughs, but like if there was another choice that I almost went for, I'll go back and experiment with it. Right. And with the combat stuff, it's like figuring out ways that I talked about this with the Outer Worlds. One of the things that I really liked about that game was there was a few moments in that game, because that game like didn't super land for me, but the few moments where it felt really special where it just was like, oh yeah, go do this thing, or just like walk in guns ablaze and figure it out on the way. Right. And I love when RPGs do that. Like that's what feels like role playing to me, is if the game, it gives me a bunch of options and is like, or I mean, if you're a crazy person, you could just fill the goblin encampment with explosive barrels and commit an act of terror. And so there was one combat encounter that I won't talk about in any detail, but the the space of it was a very narrow corridor that opened up into a larger space full of enemies. And I just kept they kept doing like AoE spells in the corridor. So all my guys would group up and just get immediately stuck there and slowed and like damage over time and just like confused. Just horrifying. So what I found out was that I could use Dimension Door to get to the rafters in that room.
Oh,
and
that's
then,
awesome.
So I would warp at the start of the combat, like even before they saw me in the combat triggered, I'd run in and have two people Dimension Door up to the rafters. And then they were just like raining fireballs and arrows down from the rafters in that room the whole time. And I did that combat encounter probably at least like 8 times before I did that. And it was like, it's this little bit of lightning that goes off in your head where you're like, oh man, there's like, I wonder how many other styles of like ridiculous approaches there are to this that I'm not even conceiving of. Yeah, it just feels like the depth with all these systems are unbelievable and endless.
Also, that dice roll animation just can't be beat. It's just
juicy.
the best. It's so juicy. Just like it feels weight. It feels heavy. Just like
yeah,
it's like put that peggle straight into my veins. Is there anything else anyone wants to talk about? Anything about like art direction's amazing. Like the game looks fantastic. You know, the animation, the dialogue stuff, the characters. I guess it's hard to talk about the characters without getting too spoilery. But is there any other stuff like that people want to talk about?
I do want to mention that I think this is probably the best immersive sim that I played this year. I think like it's easy for me to look at this and say it solved a problem I had with Dungeons and Dragons because playing 5e, the version of Dungeons and Dragons that I played, I hate combat. I hate combat in Dungeons and Dragons. It sucks so bad. It's so boring. I don't want it to happen. Like, and to do all the cool stuff, you got to like coax your DM and like, you know, the coolest thing about combat in Baldur's Gate is when you're interacting with the environment while fighting. Like, oh, there's a hanging chandelier with like a fire cauldron in it. Like I'll shoot the rope and then it'll fall down and hit everybody. That stuff's great. That's my favorite part of this game is when you get to interact with the environment and do stuff with that. And like, there's a puddle of water. I'm going to shock that. Boom. Everyone's shocked in the puddle of water. Dungeons and Dragons, like when you're playing it, you kind of have to ask your DM to like let you do a cool thing. Like, can there be a fire chandelier here? And they're like,
depends on your DM, I think. You know, or
no, it depends
how
on the
well
person,
you know them and all that stuff. Yeah,
but you kind of have to. You know, I feel like there's less play with that kind of thing. You get like it depends a lot on how invested everyone is in designing the map and everything. And that's no knock on Dungeons and Dragons or the people who play it or the DMs who don't maybe necessarily think about that stuff. But I really appreciate that in this game because of the way it's designed, because it's a video game, because there's so many visual elements. It solves that problem of D&D for me, while still retaining my favorite part of it, which is the role playing aspect and really elevating it in a fun way. Obviously, there's stripped away parts from Dungeons and Dragons. They can't get as improv as you would in that game, but so there's trade-offs in that way, but I feel like it's a good balance. The immersive sim part of it for me is the way that you can handle situations and handle problems in ways that don't feel intuitive necessarily, like or do and feel like they shouldn't be. Like there will be scenarios where you're fighting an enemy that you know you can't beat, but there's an environmental hazard that can hurt them and kill them and do a lot of damage, so you just like bring them over to and then you've dealt with this thing that you definitely shouldn't be able to beat at any point at the level that you're at. I was like, that's so cool. I don't think I've played an RPG, a CRPG, an RPG in the last couple of years where that's been a thing that you could do, where the game is like, okay, yeah, that's fine. You totally solved that problem. Here you go.
Yeah.
I watched a bunch of. Oh, sorry. You can go first.
No, I was just about to say it's a level. It's funny. I wouldn't have ever. I feel like it's sacrilege to call a CRPG an immersive sim because it feels like you're like lowering it down to like on the scale of interactivity. Immersive sim is like high on in the first person genre, but you're right. Like it's
Weird
interactivity,
West, though, right?
Yeah. That's. Yeah, totally. That's more, but and that's one foot in sort of the CRPG world as well. But you're right; it's coming from that. Yeah, they have a shared, vocabulary there, and it's that interactability or interactivity. And it's not, to me, it's not just that sort of like systemic interactivity. That's the obvious stuff. That is like it's the stuff that you don't realize you can do. That then when you get into it, you're like traits with certain enemies, like racial traits with certain enemies, or combinations of spells that you wouldn't have thought of, you know what I mean? And they're sort of like they're coaxing you with some of that environmental stuff and other things like that into like thinking that way. But you're right, it's like I feel like there's a whole world of possibilities that I'm not doing half the time, and that can be both fun and sort of mildly like choice paralysis-y or something,
Yeah, I felt the same way. I watched a few friends stream parts of the game to me that I had already played myself, just because I was curious how they were playing them. And the thing that struck me, and I think this is to Jesse's point about the immersive sim thing, is that you would think when someone did a different approach that I was like, oh, whoa, that's a far superior approach to this, that it would be exclusively tied to skill level, that these would be people who are like really good at this type of game. But people who are like totally CRPG naive or like don't play Larian games were doing things just intuitively based on their gut feeling that I never would have thought of, that were totally viable strategies or even better strategies than me, who put like 250 hours into Divinity Original Sin 2. Right. And I think that's an impressive feat of game design, is to have such a breadth of options, but in a way that are like, they're not all immediately apparent to every player. It's kind of like what Jesse was saying about the environmental stuff, is like the problem with D&D is that in order to know that you can drop the fire chandelier, your DM has to be like, oh, and there's a fire chandelier above the whole battlefield. Right. And then it's obvious to you because there's hanging a hat on the possibility
cast perception to the ceiling or something. You know?
Yeah, exactly. Or if you do cast perception in any environment, he'll be like, yeah, there's like a big red barrel. I wonder what that's for.
It says explosives on the side.
Yeah, there's a powder keg there, but I don't know. I just watched so many friends play so many scenarios in so many different ways, and so many of the things that they did, I was like, I never would have thought. I wish I had thought of that, even as like a veteran of these types of games.
Yeah, and I wonder how much they're messing with the. I can't even use the term AI in games anymore. It feels wrong to use it now. It just feels like a term that's lost all meaning. But the mobs or whatever. Like, I wonder how much like directing is going on there, where they're like doing things to encourage you to do things. Encourage you to spread out across the map, or encourage you to, take a certain strategy or use a certain spell, or giving you time to get people back up, or I just don't trust Larian not to be that amazing, to be doing that as well. It's a really wonderful game. It's one of those like, oh, they were making this game for 20 years kind of games. And I've not been playing on. I know you have, Jeremy, playing a bunch of them. I took down some of the words that got mentioned. Layered, special, interactive. I do think the idea of calling it best immersive sim might be very funny. Funny. And appropriate. And it's not. I'm not sorry. I wasn't criticizing, saying that like it's just that like it's like my old man gamer brain is the problem there, where it's like I have not thought about other games outside of ones Warren Spector might have touched, right, or touched somebody who worked on them. I don't know. Maybe he's touched some people at Larian. I have no idea. We'll have to call up. We'll have to look up the Warren Spector, who did Warren Spector touch recently.com website.
Secret tape.
Exactly. Yeah. So I don't, any other what things about Baldur's Gate are the ones that it's just fucking perfect, isn't it?
It's so good. I have, before I praise it, I do have to say one thing that God, I would pay $100 for this game again on top of the amount I paid if they would add one feature.
Okay.
Fast
clean faces. Oh my
God.
Oh no.
Yes. A fast forward in combat is so necessary.
Dude.
As you progress in the game, there are some combat encounters that take so fucking long.
A million turns every turn kind of thing. A million.
And I found myself like, it'll be the AI turn, and I'll alt tab for 10 minutes and go do something else. And the problem with that is then I don't have the information of what they did during their turn, but I can't be fucking bothered to watch, especially with like I said, like part of the joy is reloading and trying a new, like you're 1/3 through a combat encounter and you're like, oh, I could have shot the chandelier up there. I didn't even notice it. And you restart it. And you're like, now I have to watch the robot cast all his buffs again. And now it's just, it's too much. And this game is so brilliant. And it's the one thing that is like, really gets under my skin.
I would also like to ask for Midnight Suns to have that, but we can get to that in a second, I guess.
Yeah, fair.
Just like a skip combat thing.
But to what's special about this game, I think that one thing I didn't mention is that in the romanceable NPCs, the level of depth to that goes to was unbelievable to me. Not only in the way that there were necessary story events that popped up that then were like, oh, but you romanced this character, and now they have something unique to say about it because they're like your partner and they're invested in this story beat, but also like totally unnecessary, non-plot related, like I won't spoil this because it's so beautiful, but there's like a side thing that has nothing to do with the story that you can do with your romanceable partner if
Right.
you have one, and it's literally just to deepen your relationship with them and just to like explore your dynamic with them. And I think the thing that feels
Go
special
bowling,
to me
is it?
Yeah, you go bowling with your cousin.
cousin.
He's there too.
Yeah. And then you kiss your cousin. Whoa, what game are you playing?
No, he's just there. He's third wheeling.
Oh, okay.
I feel like the thing that makes this game special is that it is so expansive, and so expansive in the broad range of possibilities of actions that you can take at any possible moment and different paths that you can take, that it feels like oftentimes when you're playing a video game with open choice, what that really means is like, oh, do you do the good? Are you the good guy or the bad guy? Do you go left? Do you go right? And to me, this
Paragon
feels like,
yeah,
exactly. And this game to me feels like it is like it's dissolving the boundaries between the obvious paths. It feels like there are so many paths to take that it starts to become like realer to me, because it feels like I can express myself in a way that is not like binary or like there's three obvious choices. It feels almost infinite.
So what award do we want to give this almost infinite gaming experience?
I mean, it does tie into immersive sim, but I feel like that to me communicates like lighting the oil on the floor on fire. And I'm trying to think of like,
right,
is there a narrative version of the word immersive, the phrase immersive sim?
I'll also just mention that I think it's funny to call it best immersive sim as well, because if anything, Noclip has made too many documentaries about immersive sims, and we love immersive sims. And the problem with immersive sims is that nobody fucking buys immersive sims. But Baldur's Gate 3,
that's how we save the genre.
That's
make the most popular game of the year an immersive sim.
Exactly. Exactly. If we fucking change the script on this one and we say, hey, you know why that game was great? Well, obviously it was because it was an immersive sim. You know, immersive sims are the hot new shit. Like, everyone should make, you know what I mean? Everyone's like, will people make games like Baldur's Gate? Well, like, nobody's going to make a game like Baldur's Gate, because Larry are like making these like RPGs that are so, but you know what people really liked? It was all that immersive sim juice, you know?
By Design episode 3 coming to A16Z Games. Check it out. January 2024.
Well, we've referenced that show way too many times on this one episode already. We've hit our limit. They'll pay out now because we did that. But if we call it best immersive sim, then it's like, exactly, yeah, we changed the narrative.
Yeah, it
So
broke the curse.
propaganda.
It's like when the Red Sox won, they broke the curse of the Bambino. That was like 100-year curse where they couldn't win the World Series.
It's the, why can't I remember the guy with the sock? It's the
Kurt Schilling.
It's the Kurt Schilling of video games. Although it's the Kurt Schilling or RPGs, that would be Kingdoms of Amalur Reckoning.
I was going to say, he made a video game.
Ever made.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
This is, okay, it's like the immersive sim curse breaker award or something. It's like
immersive sim.
Something like that.
Or just call it best immersive sim.
Or just best immersive sim.
Because then we're just doing it. Then we're doing it. We're not saying it would be. Yeah, it is. Yeah, if we did best immersive sim.
There we go.
How do I will say, there's also something funny about this game being so superlative, and then we give it like a very grounding award. Like, it's not, because we could say like, oh my God, this game is the best RPG ever, or it's, and it might be, but if we just say like, oh yeah, that's a really good immersive sim. It's like calling it like best, virtual date game or whatever. Best dream
best dating sim.
Dating sim, exactly. Best dating sim or something.
I like it funny too.
Do we feel all right about for the moment?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's pretty solid. Yeah, I think maybe we circle back to it and toss the ball around a little bit later, but that sounds pretty good.
I'll take the green off of it on our little document here. Marvel's Midnight Suns or Midnight Suns or whatever it's called. This is a game Jesse suggested, and it kind of crept in as our number 11 because this game technically came out last year, but it came out mid-December, and God knows any game that came out in mid-December, or really early December at this stage, is sort of in the no man's land of game of the years. So bringing it over here seems like the right thing to do. It's also a game that people have really liked. It's also a game that seemed to not sell particularly well, and a lot of people at Fair Access, including Jake Solomon, have left the studio since its release. I don't know if it's necessarily connected or anything, but it seems a game that unfortunately maybe didn't do as well as the game design sort of deserved, is maybe a strong word to use in the world of the free market, but certainly there's a lot of love for this game, and yeah, it's cool to talk about it for sure. So Jesse, so who else has played this, by the way? I played a bunch of it. Frank has. Jeremy,
I played a few hours. Yeah,
you played a few hours. Cool. Jesse, let's go with you first because you were the one who played it last year. Was talking it up last year. What is it about Marvel's Midnight Suns you think is special, worthy of it getting on this list?
Yeah, I mean, so last year, Frank Howley, our own Frank Howley, was the one who was most excited for this. I remember Gigabrained Noclip enjoyers may remember me saying, I'm not excited for that game. It looked dumb as hell. Who wants cards in a Marvel game? And then I played Marvel Snap. And then I played this.
Oh, yeah.
What a fool I was. What a fool I was. Marvel's Midnight Suns is, for those who have no idea, is a Persona-style card battler. I cannot believe, in like tactics game, it's the weirdest mix-up of genre and aesthetic and property that I think I've seen in a very long time. Like, there's no reason that this is a card battler tactics game from the people who made XCOM. That just doesn't feel right to say, but it is. And then it's also a game about, it's mildly a dating sim. It's so strange.
It feels like a sort of, there was an era in the PlayStation 2 where you could just make a Marvel game about fucking anything. Like they were just handing the licenses out like candy at Halloween, and just weird stuff came out. Like not even Marvel, kind of any game. Like licenses for video games are just like do whatever you want, and for that you got a lot of crap. You got a lot of 2D platformers, but then you also got, sometimes you got really weird things where you're like, why did someone make this? And it was usually because they made a game, it didn't sell, or they got halfway through development, ran out of money, and then convinced somebody, oh, if we make it a Wolverine one of them, then maybe people will buy it. And they crammed it together. And this kind of feels like one of those games. It feels like it came out of like a different era of development or something.
Yeah, no, that's exactly what it feels like. I do wonder if there's some interview they've done where they're like, I swear we weren't making, insert this XCOM for mobile. And then they were like, what if we gave you $1 billion or not enough from the sounds of it? So this game is half you're playing as a new character who's been inserted into the world of the Marvel universe in what is effectively a giant old church where you're hanging around with some of the biggest characters in the Marvel cinematic, at least, world. Iron Man, Captain America, Wolverine, Scarlet Witch shows up for a little bit. The Hulk sometimes. Like just characters that are so in the current culture so huge, you get to just hang out with them and get a drink.
But not their Hollywood versions.
Yeah.
Which I think is kind of like the Avengers game Crystal Dynamics made. I think it's a problem, maybe.
So I would agree with you if it wasn't for the fact that Marvel's Midnight Suns, with the character specifically, achieves two things. One, it is making a game that is not trying to be a Marvel Cinematic Universe style game. I understand that if it's quippy, Marvel has always been quippy. The comics have always been quippy. That has not stopped. It never changed. Maybe they got a little less funny quippy and got really sad and emo quippy in the late 90s, but they've always been quippy. So they've achieved that here, I feel like. And the other half of it is that while they're not using the faces and the representations and the styles of the characters from the movies, they're using a lot of the best voice actors for video game versions of these characters and cartoon versions of these characters that people really love. Steve Blum is Wolverine to me. I don't really, he is the bub guy. I don't see anyone else playing that character. The guy who plays Captain America is the person who voices BJ Blazkowicz in the new Wolfenstein games.
Oh, really?
Yeah, which, I mean, he's basically Captain America, right? I mean, if you think about it. So they have, and I could keep going, but I'm not going to waste much time. But they have a lot of really good performances and good versions of these characters, well-written versions of these characters, and then new characters in the Marvel, not in the Marvel canon, but that we never really see, like Magic and Nico Minoru, and Doctor Strange is, I feel a really good version of Doctor Strange compared to the one that you get from Benedict Cumberbatch. So I really appreciate the versions of these characters that they bring to it. Obviously, if you don't care about Marvel, there's the end of that. Who cares? None of it. It doesn't matter.
That's where I'm at.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, I think that's where I'm at and it was the question I had beforehand was can I play this game if I do not care about these? And I don't. And I've tried over the years and I like comic books and graphic novels. I've never cared about superhero stuff. Only anti-superhero stuff your obvious stuff like Watchmen and things like that, where it's clearly trying to, it's not
It's like
existing
saying
in
you
that
like
sort of
anime and
cult-
you only watch Ghibli movies. It's like, do
yeah,
I?
Yeah, exactly. Or, you've seen Akira once or whatever. I think it's so. To me, I was like, can I enjoy this game without any of that shit? And the answer is like, kind of.
Yeah.
I really like the combat
Yeah, I
in
was
this
just
game.
gonna say.
I like
Yeah.
all that sort of stuff. I like picking the missions. I like preparing for the missions. I like upgrading the people. So the way this game works is that you're going off on missions. You're in this castle and there's all this like extra bits of Persona styles. I got the vibe. I haven't played much Persona games, but I got the vibe that it was that type of thing where you're spending time with people. You have a certain amount of time during the day. They go to bed after you've done things. So you've only got a certain amount you can do. And then in that area, there's like things like there are groups you can hang out with, or there are even just things you can find around that little open world area around the what is it, it's church or a whatever, mansion or whatever it is. It's got like X-Men vibes of like where all the kids get taught kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then each room has like in XCOM sort of fashion, you have all these different rooms that have different you can upgrade here, or you can train here, or you can get do research here and all that sort of stuff. All that stuff is played out in third person, so you're controlling a character who's walking around that world, which if you're coming at this as a Firaxis fan is a little bit jarring at the start. You're like, oh, it's not just like XCOM, it's not menu based, it's like I'm walking around, which means some of it can feel a little fetch questy at times, especially in the opening hours where they're doing a lot of tutorializing, which is kind of necessary, I guess. But then the combat, it has all that interesting interactivity that I was talking about in Baldur's Gate to a certain extent. It's obviously not that deep or anything, but there is loads of like the combinations of different cards you can use for powers, the interactivity within the world. It's like a simpler chessboard than what you get in Baldur's Gate, but it's a lot of like lateral thinking, how you're going to combine players, how you're going to kind of in a XCOM way, how you're going to like work with where the enemies end up being on the next turn, like where they are on the game board space kind of. There's a lot of like thinking there, and I enjoyed all that. I enjoyed the preparing for the fights and picking my crew based on who I thought I was going to fight or interesting combinations, and then the fights themselves were really cool as well, but I cannot tell you how many cutscenes I skipped. I'm so sorry. Like
Me
I
too.
just, and it's not, it's just, I don't give a shit. That type of dialogue and that type of stuff has never appealed to me, and it's not the game's fault. It's just not for me.
No, totally fair.
I am a self-proclaimed Marvel hater. So I was very, very, very skeptical going into this, but on the other hand, Jesse and I have the same brain, and he can always predict how I'll feel about a game with like 98% accuracy at least. And the gameplay of this game is really, really fun. I was actually having a blast in spite of myself, because throughout the combat, you also get the quips. And so there was the devil and the angel on my shoulder, where like the devil's like, oh, it's pretty fun though. You could like throw the rock at the guy. I'm like, oh yeah, I want to throw the rock at the guy. And then Doctor Strange does a move, and then he's like, put a wrinkle in my cape. And I'm like, just shut the fuck up and just let me play the game. In fact, I think here's a maybe they do this later. Jesse, you can tell me if I'm accurately predicting a character dynamic that will emerge. But I think this game would jump up 2-letter grades for me if Blade was constantly bullying everyone when they quipped. So like if Tony Stark was like, what, you don't recognize me? And Blade would be like, no one fucking recognizes you, man. Shut up. Like I would love if Blade was just like the count, if he was my avatar.
I liked
in
Blade
the game.
too. Blade was good fun too.
Blade is cool. Yeah. I mean, Blade is a great character. And
easily.
like, yeah, I
Somebody
found
should make a video game about just him.
Yeah.
An immersive sim.
A Dinga
if you will.
Bakaba
Maybe
should
Immersive
actually be
Sim,
the
why
person
not?
to lead it, I feel like.
Yeah. But I've despite the fact that I don't have any attachment to these characters, there was a moment where like I was playing with Blade, and there, I got a card that was like, this is the Blade ability, and he like uses his guns, and like this is like the Blade blood ability, and it does this, and I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. That's actually pretty cool, and I, like it won me over in some respects that I did not expect. And yeah, it's just like the battle system is really good. Mechanically, it's a very fun game. And I think if the theme was literally anything else, I would probably play this entire game.
Yeah, I feel similarly. And that's not a knock against it. I think it deserves to be on this list.
That's a personal taste thing. I want to be very clear.
Yeah, totally.
It's a personal taste thing.
And I want to say the same thing. It is, I know that I knew coming into this that I didn't, there are parts of this that I wasn't going to probably like unless they stepped out of the way. And they largely don't, but the game is so good that it didn't stop me from playing it. And I also don't think that those things are handled badly. If I was into that, like if this was the exact same game and it was set in like the Half-Life universe, or like, I don't know. What else do I like? Sports. If this was Formula One, or if this was football, or if this was, lots of other stuff, I would have liked it. And in a way, I'm
I got
like
the Max
bummed for
Verstappen card.
Access.
That's so sick.
Exactly. Yeah, I can't wait. I got a late break into this move. Yeah, and like there were moments like that, like Blade, I found very funny. And some of the people I don't know who the fuck they are. There was like younger kids, like some of them were good fun.
Magic and Nico.
Yeah, there was a club I joined with them, which was very funny. I thought there were some parts that definitely made me smirk and laugh, but not enough to have me, constantly running through that teleport was a bit boring. I was like, just fucking let me get into the mission.
Yeah, but then Magic says he's Portal with their bad Russian accent.
So that's the thing. Exactly. It just forces me to engage with the game's lore, which is, I feel bad for all the writers and stuff who did great work on this, who I'm sure Marvel fans really enjoyed it. It's just not my cup of tea. But super great. The combat stuff, they're just so good at making those games. Like, and I wonder like how much budget they had for this. They probably squeezed a lot out of the stone on this one. Just because I just imagine the team size of Firaxis and the type of subset they're working here, where it's like a strategy game for Marvel fans. I just imagine it probably didn't get a huge budget. But I think the game looks good and runs well and has there's a lot of different environments, you know what I mean? Like that you go through, at least at the start. It doesn't feel cheap or anything. It feels like very polished too.
Yeah, except for the faces. They don't look like. Where's Scarlett Johansson? Why can't?
Yeah, that's probably a voice acting issue more than anything. Because then you got to pay them to do the. You got to pay for their likeness.
Pay for their likeness.
Pay
for the voices.
Yeah, that would cost like 10 times more than the budget of the game to get all those people.
Right. The thing that it was reminding me of is that, and we're sort of noticing Marvel have a bit of a downturn in 2023 just across the board. The movies a lot of them have tanked. This game seems to have not done amazingly well. Even the Avengers Crystal Dynamics game, I think there's lots of reasons for that as well. The sort of live service element to it, everything else. That was a game that felt like it was closer to being an Avengers movie, but didn't have the Avengers. That was more kind of egregious, I guess. But I am starting to wonder if like actually the entire point of those movies, then why they were, not the entire point, but a large part of why that stuff was popular was because it had actors that everyone liked and knew, and you were watching them movie after movie after movie, and then the big finale was all of the movies you'd watched for years. It was the ultimate Game of Thrones with meets Breaking Bad meets Arrested Development meets The Sopranos ending, and then once that happened, nobody gave a fuck. It was like, great, the thing happened, cool. Anyway, let's watch something else now. It's been So I wonder if we're like, there was so much of that was actually the mainstream popularity. I mean, not like hardcore comic book people, but like the sort of like, oh, this is $1 billion franchise stuff was more to do with that than it was to do with any rewarding depth or anything. And this game might have got caught in the crossfire. I don't know. But
yeah, I mean, this is definitely more of a hardcore Marvel fan kind of thing. I mean, the people who worked on it, from what I've seen, and I think Jake Solomon has talked about in the past, like real Marvel, big Marvel heads. Like they don't just watch the movies. They don't just like, I like when Tony Stark is Robert Downey Jr. Like they like the character and they like the lore and the world and all the weird stuff. So this is definitely a game for people who are Marvel fans, like capital F fans, not MCU fans, not like I kind of like them sometimes. I read one when I was a kid. So I think, it kind of is sitting in that middle point of like, it is the end of the era. Endgame happened. Even I was like, and I only watched them sort of like out of obligation at a certain point. I stopped caring about them after Age of Ultron. But like once they got to that was kind of the end of the story. There was nothing more to tell. It was where we go from here. How do you get bigger than the conclusion of Endgame? Yeah. Like but then this is coming out and it's like, it doesn't appeal to those people. It appeals to a subset of people who are a fan of a thing that like a lot of people don't read comics anyway. And then you also have to like a card battler game, like the weirdest cross section of people. The Venn diagram for this game had to be incredibly small. Somehow I fell in it, and for whatever reason thought I wouldn't. So luckily it was a perfect thing for me. I do really like this gameplay system, and I hope Firaxis gets to do something with this multi-layered, very deep system of gameplay and interactions between card attributes that you can apply to them. You can have this perfect way of playing that you want. Maybe you want Iron Man to be the kind of character who hits multiple targets, or you want him to be the kind of character who hits one target really hard. And then you want like these characters are support characters, or maybe they're not. Like there's so many options you can have for each character, their card sets, how they interact with the other characters you bring along with them. And then there's quests that like you have to use these cards, or you have to bring this character, and then you got to like play around that. There's so much to it that you guys are half joking, but I really would like to see what is the Star Wars version of this game? What is the DC version of this game? Like, it sucks to attach properties onto things. Well, no, I think DC could.
You had me and you lost me.
Okay, sorry. I'll say a weird thing again instead of a thing that I like. I don't know. Fuck. Give me the robots version of the game.
You could plug Harry Potter into this very easily.
Totally.
You
really shouldn't.
This.
Please don't.
Let me kill.
Please don't do that.
Kill Nazis with cards.
No. You got to be one of the Nazis who uses a card.
Wait. If you're doing a World War II, I mean, then it's like Hitler Youth Mansion is what you're
sure
in,
no,
what?
I want the opposite. Also, I had a realization about like Marvel's flavor of dialogue from playing this game. And what I realized is I've always thought that I hated quippy dialogue, and I do. Don't get me wrong. But what I realized is I think I discovered a rule. I think it depends on whether or not I think the character is cool. If they're allowed to quip.
So Blade gets away with it
exactly. Because if like a doofy little kid in spandex is like, this day just keeps getting better, and he's being ironic because things are getting worse, I'm like, shut up, dude. But if Bruce Willis says it and he's in the vents and he's stepping on glass and shooting people in Die Hard, he's like, this day keeps getting better. I'm like, oh, that's awesome. So I don't think it has anything to do with the quality of the writing, and I think it has everything to do with how cool I think the character is.
Somebody is. One of my favorite things about Blade, we're just talking about Blade this whole time. One of my favorite things about Blade is that Blade has like, his moves are obviously, a lot of them are like, bleed and damage over time, right? And he has like one, you get your heroic up to a certain level and you can do all those badass moves, which I really like that system, because like it's a very good like, oh, I'm fucked. My team is at its end, but I just got my heroic all the way up to like whatever 6 or something, and now I'm going to get Miss Marvel to just blast everyone to pieces with this one card. But one of the things I love, Blade has like, one of his moves is like he can attack 3 people, and it's like click, 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 as long as they're close to each other. And he does like a whole Blade thing, and if there's a box, he'll jump over the box and do it, and cha cha cha. And then another one is he just shoots a guy. Like but he takes out his guns in like this very like elaborate way. And like the world map we should explain is like basically nothing. They're in these, you're fighting in sort of open areas for the longest time. And there's like objects in the room you can like hide behind a bit. But like, it's not like XCOM where like, they can walk around you, and you're not doing a lot of like defense like that, like you would in XCOM, where like cover is the most important thing in the world, basically. So he's just like 2 squares away from somebody, and he gets his guns, and he does this real elaborate like fucking like gun kata thing, and it just shoots somebody. It's just like, I love how silly that all looks.
Mm-hmm.
It's a good time.
Blade rocks I think the bottom line for me is that
he has an amazing line, and it's like, it's something that happens if you get into the character stuff. If you like, so don't, I guess, but like there's character stuff in that it's really fun. One line he says, and it's just, I think about it all the time. Obviously, Blade, vampire hunter. He says it multiple times throughout the game. My concern, as always, is vampires. And he says that multiple times.
See, that rocks because it's Blade.
Yeah, and he's like,
anyone else, that would be so dumb. And it's awesome because it's Blade.
He's a cool character. I really, really like Blade.
Yeah.
You must feel weird killing people who aren't vampires. It must be different.
Yeah, it's all right.
He's
yeah.
Like, all right,
it's fine.
Yeah, leave all my silver bullets at home. Midnight Suns. I didn't take down any names for this. I got to take down some words for this. What do we like about this? We like the combat. It's a genre mashup. It's doing a lot.
Definitely sounds like it deserves the most for its combat and the way that it adds like depth to the cards, the deck, and how you play them and everything.
It's like respect the swing. Like, it's a big swing. It's what is it about this game that makes it, the fact that I enjoyed it despite its IP, or I was going to say the same thing.
Like, if I was giving it an award,
shit on it for that, I
know that's why I've been shying away from that, because if I was going to give it an award, it would be like I can't believe I like this award,
right?
Because it's so good, it like wins me. It's so good mechanically that I was like, oh, this is like the undeniably good game award. But that's just me.
Undeniably good, wins you over.
Yeah.
It's a good use case for that, though, for like good game design can get over just about anything.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
Hey, Frank, did you like this game at all?
Yeah, when I broke my elbow in like May, I needed a game I could play with one hand, and this was a game I bought like during a holiday sale, but just like never had the time for. And yeah, for like the week or 2 weeks where I was just on pain medicine and like couldn't do anything, I like got so hooked on this game. And like one of the defining features of it is like the flow of it is so good, where it's like you have these battles, maybe they're like 20 minutes to an hour if you're doing story mission, and like when you're in those battles, it's satisfying like building up the combos. Like there's a ability if you kill someone with like a quick card, you get your card turned back.
Yeah.
And it became a game of like, how long can I keep killing people until I lose my turn? And I tweaked my settings so hard to where I could do full on missions without ever giving up my turn. And that's fun. And then you've finished the mission, and then it's like, all right, level up these abilities, level up these cards, level up my heroes, turn in because there's a bunch of like background things like hero ops where you send a character out to do a mission, and like on 2 days he brings back more cards, whatever these like things are. But it immediately wanted you to go back into do the next mission. It was so addicting to where then I stopped doing the story and started just grinding all the side stuff.
That's what I enjoyed too. Yeah.
It's so good. And like, yeah, I would say like half the roster I love. Like I love Wolverine, I love Blade. I didn't know who the hell Magic was, and like she ended up being the coolest character. She was cute, but she had a bunch of gathering abilities and AoE things. So she was so fun. And also like, I think the only character I didn't like playing as was Doctor Strange, but every other character, like even Captain Marvel or whatever, all these other characters, no matter what dynamic, because story missions will force you to play as random groups, every grouping was super fun. So like, yeah. And again, like I like comic books, but like, I don't care so much about the Marvel stuff. Like I love Image, I love other stuff, but like, yeah, the IP does. Yeah, as we kind of said, the IP does not matter. The game itself is so good, and it's just like, yeah, okay, sure, it's this superhero stuff, but like, yeah, regardless, it's very satisfying. It's very fun, and it is very addicting.
The idea of Frank blasted on oxycodone playing this game is probably the funniest thing I've ever heard in my life. I love that. I love that so much, and I only needed to explain because I laughed when you said, "Oh, I broke my arm and I was on pain pills," and then I laughed at it in an opportune moment. It's because the idea of you fucked up on pain pills playing this game is like, it just brings me joy.
Yeah, like I was so cranky and miserable, but it was like, you know what, I can hang with this. And I was playing it like 8 hours a day, and I don't know, it's just a good
you like
game.
Rubbing your face, being like, this game's fucking fun, man. Like, just sorry. All right, I'm moving on.
Yeah.
Yeah, like surprisingly good combination, or is there like a combination that like you think could go work well together, but it does?
The peanut butter and pickles award. Give it that.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
It's like the sweet and sour award.
Sweet and sour, or sweet and salty, or sweet and sour.
Yeah, or like no, I was gonna say like the team attack or something, like when people group up, but that doesn't really. It's like it's not quite that. But there are different elements that are combining in a surprising way. I think
like a combination. Like, is there a candy where you get like there's 15 different flavors in it? And so you're kind of like
the everlasting gobstopper.
What's that jelly bean bag you get where there's one bad one or a bunch of bad ones?
Like Jelly Bellies.
Oh yeah.
The Jelly Belly Award.
The Jelly Belly. They're like,
I believe I have to help name an award
selection box.
What if something's bad but has good parts?
Yeah. or just the variety that's in there. It's like it's the. Let's go back to it. Let's go back to it.
This is a tough one.
In the second half. We'll take a quick 5-minute break. Us over here. It'll just be a short one for you. And we'll be back in a minute. See you. Thank you for listening to this podcast. And thank you to our incredible Battle Pass patrons who have been with us. Some of them for a long time. Some of them new. Try and see if you can tell which is which. Thanks to our good friends. Harry Flanagan, Battle Royale Games. Arno, Richard Matherson, James Brown, Jason Drury, Mark Rojas, Ryan Cobb, Tucker Morgan, Crimson Cyclist, Sven Huster, Tim Robinson, Forrest Pruitt, Eric Hamilton Schneider, Camerlet, Alex Sharp. Wouldn't it be weird if that was the first time he was on here and I did that for no reason? That'd be weird. Alex Sharp, Alex Goucher, George Dakotas, Jacob Godserve, Tohir Tiliev, and Ryson. Thank you all so much for your support. Without them, none of this would be possible. They also secretly told us which games to get on the list. So if you don't like any of our games we put on here, blame them. It was mostly Tucker Morgan. Okay, bye.
It's about to get Alan Woke up in here.
That's a bit.
Saga Anderson? More like Saga Can't get a Manderson. Got him.
Wow.
Got him.
Damn, bro.
Got him. We're coming in on
That's
that.
really good.
That's how we're coming in off the break.
That's really good. All right, yeah, we're in the flow. Let's keep going. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the final chapter of our Game of the Year podcast. As you can tell, we're getting quite mad over here. It's all falling apart. Just like our good friend Alan Wake 2, which we'll talk about now. Alan Wake 2, the sequel nobody knew they wanted. I think everyone wanted a new Remedy game, but I don't know if any of us really wanted another Alan Wake. And I like Alan Wake was fine when it came out in 2006.
Was it 6? Is it that long ago?
No, maybe it was 11.
I thought it was like 13 or something.
I'm in denial about how old I am, Jesse.
Yeah, good point.
2010. Okay, we're in the middle.
Also, before we get started, rest in peace, James McCaffrey. Died today. Voice actor for Max Payne and Alex Casey.
Oh, right.
And Alan Wake 2. Yeah, passed away today, like 5 hours ago as of recording. Or, well, we found out 5 hours ago as of recording.
There you go. Yeah, it's probably 2 weeks ago when you're listening to this.
Yeah.
So there you go. Well, Max Payne, and considering there is a connection there, Remedy working on some type of Max Payne project at the moment with surely Rockstar with both hands on their shoulders on that one since they own the IP. Alan Wake 2, a game that, perhaps wasn't much of a surprise that it ended up being so well received and so good considering Remedy's recent turn of form with Control and everything. The sort of Remedy cinematic universe all coming into power at this very moment. Alan Wake 2. Who's played the most Alan Wake 2? Not that having played the most is the most important.
I think Jesse and I have both completed it.
Yes,
Frank, how much have you played?
I finished, I think, all the Saga stuff, but didn't get too far in the Alan Wake stuff.
That'll happen with the Alan Wake stuff.
Okay.
Like Alan Sleep.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Danny,
so we'll try
much?
not to. I played a good bit. Not. I played a lot right at the start, and then I have not played. I've probably definitely played the least of everyone here. I'd say I'm less than halfway at this stage. We'll try not to be. I mean, it's a hard game to spoil because it's so fucking weird. But it's like we'll try and be as vague as possible about what happens in this game. But yeah, it's mechanically there's certainly a lot to talk about. Who wants to go first then? Jeremy, you did on the last one. Jesse, do you want to lead the
Sure.
way on this? Although you did with Midnight Suns as well, but let's go for it. I'll toss the coin. I'll toss the lens cap.
Can I take it?
Jesse,
Oh, give
go.
it to Frank. He wants it.
Give it to Frank.
Oh, Frank. No, Frank, you go.
I think I'm the biggest Remedy fanboy
There you
here.
go,
I
yes.
love Remedy. Like even starting from Max Payne, I even played through Quantum Break at launch on a shitty Xbox One. Sorry, that original console sucks. But
doesn't matter how good your Xbox One is.
yeah,
That game ain't great.
No. I absolutely Control was the game, like the game of the year whenever that came out. Like that Control was the game where like I just took days off of whatever I was doing and like, I'm just going to play this game. And I binged it in like 3 days. Absolutely loved it. I really liked Alan Wake 1. Even when it came out, I love that it is tingling with Stephen King and noirish influence. And when Alan Wake 2 it got announced, I was like, cool, new Remedy game. I'm super in. And then I started playing Alan Wake 2 and I was a little like, it's not 100% like this is cool. And I know it's cool, but like, doesn't feel that fun. What's going on here? And like, it was a game I had to acclimate to. And like, I'm eager to hear all of Jeremy's takes on it. But like, the thing I absolutely respect in Marvel is like, I guess the term is like transmedia storytelling, how much it kind of like Immortality, how much it blends so many genres of art into one single medium of video games. Cause there's so much live action stuff. Clearly like writing is like just is such a huge part of it, but even like the radio voice acting element of it. Also, there's commercials and like there's so much material in this game that it's like something where it's like, okay, I can't quickly dismiss this. I got to like get into it. And then when I came back to it, like a week later, I like slowed down and was like, okay, wait, let me actually like comb through and look at all the details, pick up all the newspapers and read it. And then I started playing it like at a much slower pace and started to appreciate it more. Because at first I think I was just coming off of Resident Evil 4 remake, so it's like, yeah, let's go, let's blast people. It's like, oh wait, I am like getting so lost, so confused. And even over the weekend, like throughout this whole insane month for me, I took a Saturday off to be like, I'm just gonna stay in my bed and play video games. And I think I played like a solid 4 to 5 hours of Alan Wake 2. And as I said, I kind of like solely focused on the Saga stuff, and that I really enjoyed. Whereas the Alan Wake portion kind of, again, I'm not someone who I do not enjoy puzzles in video games, and that's one that's very, very Silent Hill-esque puzzles, very like, oh, what the hell? Oh, I really gotta. I mean, there's also puzzles in this game where I had to get out pieces of paper to write down. So I appreciate that. Like, oh, this is articulate, this is advanced. But still, the fact that there's a Remedy game that people are hyped on, that people are stoked on, I'm always gonna be a champion for this company. And I also adore Sam Lake. Like, and it's a whole massive team that works on this, but I love that also Sam Lake himself is in the video game.
As Sam Lake,
so I ended up watching the X-Files a bunch after starting this game, because he's basically like, there's like a Mulder and Scully version of them. I feel like is the saga stuff when it starts off, and yeah, he's very good as the cop in that stuff. I feel just all that stuff, like. There is it's very funny because like Max Payne 1 was like clearly a detective noir that they wanted to make, that they made as a video game, but in many ways could so easily have been a movie. And at that stage, even like that game was even doing stuff like all of the cutscenes were the comic book pages in Max Payne 1, and then you had levels like the dream sequence that were non-combat, and this stuff was like pretty advanced it was 2001, I believe Max Payne was. And then the Fall of Max Payne, similar type of thing. But like, as they've clearly been in the sort of like transmedia, mixed media, multimedia space for a while. Like Quantum Break was, sort of a very commercialized version of that, but it was still impressive that there was this video game and this TV show that were running at the same time, that you could like play as you watched. It was just like, who the fuck does this? But like, they clearly have such a great desire for that. And I think as a result, what you got was kind of a game, at least I think Quantum Break was maybe the sort of the low point of this S-curve or something, where you got a game that wasn't a great game, or a media aspect of it that wasn't a great version of that. You know what I mean? It was like fine. Like even Max Payne, like even the comic book pages and that were kind of, even for the time, we're like, it's really cool that they're doing that, but it's like, they're not great. They're like, it's cool, whatever, And as they've gotten over the years, they've just gotten better at all this shit. And now Alan Wake 2 is just like, everything's well produced. Like the film stuff is well produced. The two types of game that are in this game are well produced. The radio stuff's well produced. The graphics look good. It runs really well. The combat's good. It's just like now they're good. Now they weren't bad before, but now they've such competency across the board in terms of this stuff that it's just great. It's just so fun to be able to play a game that is made by people who have been in many ways similar to Larian on RPGs, just like chipping away at the same piece of marble for years and years. And now they're just experts at a weird subgenre that they largely invented themselves. Like that's why we just call these things Remedy games. That's why people are playing Alan Wake 2 off the back of Control. It's just, there shouldn't be a connective tissue. I mean, there kind of is in the grander themes of the games and whatnot, and they've alluded to all that stuff, but it's because Remedy make a very specific type of thing, and people really like it. It's weird.
Yeah.
Let me start with the positive. There are a lot of things I really like about this game. I think that, so when I nominated this game, I had played about 8 hours of it. My total playthrough was probably in the low 20s by the time I finished. It's hard to keep track because when you reload, your playtime resets.
You did warn us. You said the latter half of this game might suck, and then Jesse also kind of whispered it in your ear that maybe you won't like the ending of this game. So I'm very interested where this is going.
So earlier when I said Jesse and I are aligned 98% of the time, that was foreshadowing, because I think Jesse accurately predicted that this game would lose me by the end.
Okay.
There are parts of this game, especially the saga chapters and especially the first half of this game, where I was like, wow, this is like, my exact words last time were that this is kind of like, if you continue to evolve from Resident Evil 4 and you continue to push survival horror forward and the tech forward and all these things, it evolves and blossoms into Alan Wake 2. I no longer think that is true. The combat feels unbelievable. It is truly very, very fun, and the few moments where it lets you like go guns a-blazing on stuff, I think were some of the most fun I ever had. Conversely, some of the moments that are really slow where you're just walking around, just looking at stuff. There's a very early in the game by the lake, there's just a house and it's just filled with like little glimpses of things that are vaguely paranormal related. And it just walking around like reading notes and looking at shit and being creeped out and hearing diegetic noises. I was fully in. In fact, I was like, Remedy, make an X-Files game and I'll play it. I'll pay you $1,000 for it. However, I want to talk about this game honestly, and I want to share my real opinion. I just don't want to like hate on things I'm not trying to hate on things for the sake of hating on things. I'm being very sincere when I say these things. I think for a game about writing, I am shocked how much the story like fell apart for me and was like so unsatisfying, so like frustrating and like self-sabotaging. It felt like I'm sorry, I have to be honest about this. I've
never been so happy to be right and also sad to be right about something before.
To be right.
It is a game that is so concerned with and again, I love all of the multimedia stuff. I think that stuff is brilliant and executed perfectly, and it's like pitch perfect. It's like some of the side stuff is silly, which is a nice break from the internally serious stuff in the main story. Not always self-serious, but like in a good way usually. But I feel like this is a game whose story is so concerned with themes and with ideas and with reference and with kind of vibes that it feels to me like there isn't really a story worth telling at the core of this game. And it hurts me to say that because early on I was so invested and they set up so many interesting opportunities. And I was like, I cannot wait to see the payoff on all of these things. And I feel like there was not satisfying payoff on maybe a single thing that I was excited about.
Yep.
And to the extent that there are moments where the story does a like writing faux pas, and the story will reference the fact that it is a writing faux pas. And I just think that self-awareness of bad writing does not absolve the fact that it is bad writing. Right. If you do a bad writing thing, then you're like, isn't that because like he's a bad writer? You're the writer. Alan Wake can be a bad writer, but you're writing the story that Alan Wake's bad writing is in, and that story should be good. Like I just was so like baffled by some of the choices later in this game. And it just felt like I was watching like a we're building a cinematic universe victory lap where they're like, get it because that's that, and get it because that's that. Right. And I'm like, you can do all of that, but if you are not telling a story at the core of it, that is a good story. When you strip away all of the meta text, when you strip away all the reference and the cinematic universe stuff, that story at the core of it needs to be the focus. And that to me, this game was like a big hollow chocolate ball you get for Easter, and you're like, wow, that's so much chocolate, and you bite into it and it's just air inside.
Right. I feel like the God, it's sorry, I actually lost my point there. Jesse, did you have something to say?
No, I'm just laughing. I just feel bad. I feel bad because Alan Wake 2, and I try to bite my tongue a little bit when it comes to talking about this game because I know so many people love it, especially in the Noclip community. There's so many people who are super vocal about it.
I know. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, everybody.
Like it sucks. It sucks because like I know what people like about this. I know what I liked about it. I know you. It sounds like the Alan Wake sections aren't exactly everyone's cup of tea. I really like those parts. I like how weird they get. I like the board stuff that you can do with it. There's like a mind palace thing going on in this game. I like what they use with that. I'm sure we'll talk about that a little bit more. But and it's at exactly the point that Jeremy started to fall off on it. I stopped liking it and it started doing more things that I didn't enjoy. But what I did like about it was so just like monumentally good. The kind of thing that I wish video games, and Jeremy said this, I wish video games did more of the stuff that Alan Wake 2 does well. Like, that's why I think I like it so much.
Like what?
Well, without getting into specifics, I like the mixed media stuff. I like that it goes all in on presenting these stories and these moments in ways that video games just don't do, and visuals and storytelling, and in a way that Remedy is really the only person doing it. Like the mixed media live action stuff, using those cutscenes, telling the story in that way, and what it offers to the world. And sometimes there are moments where I can't tell if I'm looking at live action or not. Sometimes I think it's the graphics because they've gotten so good at presenting their visuals in a way that is so appealing. Visually, it's beautiful. The way that they handle grays is something that I don't think a lot of video games have done. The shades of gray in a foggy forest as you're walking through the streets of a dilapidated town that's falling apart in front of your eyes, both literally and metaphorically. There are very few video games that can capture that vibe, that essence, that feeling in a way that I think Alan Wake 2 does. And then it does like the most shit thing I've ever seen. And I'm like, what was the point of the last 5 hours? Like, why were we doing any of that? It's just so
funny.
frustrating.
It sounds like it won both of you over with certain things like the story or the presentation or the whatever. And then those same things lost you. Like they just like
it's not the same things. It's if anything, it's the parts of it that, you know, those elements bought us and sold us on the idea. And then the things that they've been holding on to like develop, like Jeremy said, like there's so many things they set up and then they just don't deal with. And then they deal with the things that it's like, yeah, I either already knew that or like didn't care. So like, why are we spending so much time on that?
I feel like the amount of plot information that is conveyed in this game is like a fortune cookie. I feel like there's so little information. I feel like Baldur's Gate, for example, is such a great counterpoint because the story rhythms of Baldur's Gate is it sets up this big long arc that you know you're going to be following for like 100 hours, but then it continually breadcrumbs you with these like 1, 2, 5, 10-hour intervals of story that then they deliver towards something. They pay you off on it. And I constantly feel like I was just waiting for Alan Wake to start paying off on questions it had asked. And
okay, I need to ask you the ultimate question about this then, because and this came up a bit with Homebody, right?
Yeah.
And this is the problem when you're making Lynchian shit, is that to some people that there's almost like there's a blurriness here where you can hide, or people may try to hide behind bad writing by saying it's Lynchian, or try to be like, oh, you just have to interpret it, or like, oh, I didn't have all my answers, you know, like what is Mulholland Drive, or I didn't have all my answers at the end of Twin Peaks, or whatever it is, and you're like, oh, that's, you know, you're supposed to think about it and all that sort of stuff. And to a certain extent, I think Remedy have always had a bit of this. Like, I don't think that the stories in their games, I think they're always interesting. I don't know if they always land. And Alan Wake, the first game in particular, I always thought it was funny that game seemed to be about a really, like, I don't know if he was a bad writer or if he was just took his work too seriously. I think he took his work way more seriously than anyone who would read his books did. But I never quite knew where Remedy were on that. You know what I mean? I never knew if they thought that this was good, or if I used to find it funny that he was dying all the time, because I kind of thought of him as a character that was like in the game when I would lose, he would die. I always thought it was funny because I thought, oh my God, this guy who kind of sucks is having a bad time. I don't think I was ever on Alan Wake's side during Alan Wake, and I don't think I am in this one either. So where do you feel about that? I guess, is that like the problem with this type of stuff is that oftentimes it's not really about the story it's telling, it's about this other story and you're supposed to interpret it and yada yada yada. I don't have the verbiage to be able to explain how Lynchian storytelling works, but you know what I mean? Like,
no, I know exactly what you're saying. I wrote like 30-page thesis papers on Lynch movies in film school. I love that type of story. Like that is my shit. Right. I feel like the thing that sets apart a story like that and it doesn't necessarily need to have like a literal payoff where at the end the narrator comes out and is like, you see, this is why it all makes sense. But what it needs to have is like Silent Hill 2 is a great example where at the end not everything is neatly tied up in a bow, but it punches you in the right way where you feel it on an emotional level. And Silent Hill 2 also has multiple endings, and I feel like no matter what ending you get, the experience has a sum total metaphorical, thematic, emotional impact that is kind of the narrative payoff for it. Is your feelings about this story and where it leaves you at the end. And there also, like, there is very literal plot information at points in Silent Hill 2 that is conveyed to it, like pokes through the miasma, the fog, if you will, since he gives us a foggy, and it gives you literal information. And it feels to me like that is lacking here. And the funny thing is, this is kind of related to the storytelling in Alan Wake 2, is that the moments where I wanted to spend time in this world were for example, there's like a little cafe and there's like someone on stage doing like a little show to two people in the cafe really early on in the game in Watery. And it's just this little side story. It's not even a story. It's just like a little set piece moment off to the side. You can totally miss it. I was streaming to my girlfriend. She's like, I can't believe I didn't see this. It's so missable. And I stood there for 10 minutes, just like listening to the whole song, going around, looking around and stuff. To me, it's like in a Rockstar game. it has that, but it's so much less tailored, where like you can go and see people doing things, but each thing is there's so much game that it feels more diluted to me, where they're like, I'm not, the person up on stage isn't a person I recognize and understand and have empathy with. Whereas this is so small scale and so micro that it felt like lived in, like I was discovering this thing that was just happening. However, I was free to leave at any time. Conversely, there are a million points at which this game forces you to sit and listen to people talk, and there is nothing happening on the screen. It's just like, here's a person's face from a different angle. And I was like, it's so ironic that the moments where I want to sit and listen to things, I'm free to go, and the moments where I'm bored out of my skull, I'm like forced to sit here. And it feels to me like the most interesting things about this world are not the story at the core of it. And I guess that's just like, at some point you can't like pay off on the little side details in a way that is like a bombastic ending to the game. And like, it just didn't, I don't know. It just like, the things I liked about this game were kind of like all of the secondary and tertiary side things and the world and the feel of it and investigating little side things. But none of those were the things that it followed through on or paid off on.
It's just, I feel like my experience of Jeremy's experience of Alan Wake during these Game of the Year podcasts is the same experience that Jeremy, who the fuck is Jamie? Jeremy and Jesse had of Alan Wake 2.
Yeah.
Like in the first podcast, it was, you were saying it could be your favorite game of the year. It could have been this. And it was, and a lot of it was probably because of like, like a bad story or a satisfying story can elevate everything, right? Even with the Marvel stuff we're talking about, Midnight Suns, right? Satisfying, right? Marvel stuff wasn't satisfying to me or you, but if it was something that we were personally, subjectively that we enjoyed, it would have elevated it, right? And obviously that's a lot of what's going on in Alan Wake 2 is like, it's a really well-made game, and then obviously all this stuff sort of elevates it. But if it comes, this is like the fucking monkey paw finger curling, where like if it comes down, then it takes it all down with it, almost, you know?
Totally. Yeah, there was... sorry, go ahead.
What I was going to suggest is this on the list? Like,
well, so I was thinking a lot about this last night because I finished this game yesterday, which also usually for me is like a primacy over recency thing. Usually when I finish a game the day prior, it's like, oh, I like this too much. I need to like reel it in. And this is...
Do you hate it too much?
I don't know, dude. I like... if I had to give this, I have more things. There are more things to address before we give this an award. But at this moment, like the gut feeling I have is that this is like the glimpses of a brighter future award, because there are moments in this game where I was like, oh wow, this type of game. I can't believe this type of game exists. The answer is no, this is not that type of game. And that was incredibly disappointing to me. There are moments where I thought I was playing a different game, and I think that's the game I liked, is the sad and true answer.
Okay.
I do have to address, I've been talking a lot about like storytelling. I have to address one totally separate thing, which is that like,
is this thing you like or don't like?
It's a thing I don't like.
Okay.
I think that
we gotta say something nice eventually.
Listen, I got notes here, and 90% of them are not positive, and I've burned through all the good. All right. I think that the puzzles in the Alan Wake sections to me they feel, I don't know. I don't want to say poorly designed, but that is what it felt like to me playing it. There were a lot of moments where you hit a wall and the game expects you to just know intuitively to backtrack. And I feel like that it is a tough thing when the game is using non-Euclidean spaces and using dream logic. And fear, where sometimes you don't want to go back where you were because it was scary. Yeah, so I would get to a dead end and I would just walk around. And that there's also like there's a reality changing. We don't need to get into the mechanics, but there's like things where you can change environments basically. And it feels to me like most of what I did during the Alan Wake sections was look around an environment until I realized there was nowhere to go and just say, do I backtrack or do I just like cycle through all of the possible options?
Right. Yeah. You're doing the adventure game thing of like, I'll just put the mouse everywhere and click everywhere.
100%. Yeah. I was just looking for doors that didn't exist. And then after 20 minutes, I'd be like, I guess I just go back where I came from. And then something had inexplicably changed. And I was like, as the player, what is the breadcrumb that is given to me to like know to do that or to like feel satisfied in being like, I have to go back. Because there are other games like Half-Life Alyx, I won't talk about the specific part, but there are specific moments in that game where you leave an environment to a safer position and you're like, oh, thank God I'm out of there. And then the heel turn comes and the game's like, guess what, motherfucker, you're going back in. And it's unbelievably satisfying. This game never did that. Alan Wake did not do that. It would force me to just walk around mashing X on every door until I realized nothing would open. And then I'd just be like, I guess I'll just go back where I just came, I guess.
Jesse, Frank, okay, Alan Wake it's been round 2 with Jeremy. Alan Wake is now sitting in the corner. It's got lots of bruises on its face. Frank, you're the cut man. Jesse, you've got you got to clean the mouth garden and shout some words of inspiration into Alan Wake 2's face. What do we have positive to say about this game? That apparently is one of our top 10.
I like that it's super bold and weird, and I want more games to be fucked up and divisive. And then it has a massive budget, and everything is like, yeah, fuck. I would rather play way more games like Alan Wake 2 than anything by Ubisoft. I get like, I don't know, just shit like
Avatar
that. It's like, yes, we need more
Pandora?
weird shit.
You're gonna fucking badmouth that right now?
I already ordered it. It was already for sale $40 off. So
let's go. That's gaming, baby.
He got his tub of blue paint. He's ready. Yeah. He's jumping in.
I mean, if I was to say anything positive about it, it would be that it ended. No, I'm just kidding. That's so mean. I'm joking. It's really. Here's the thing.
Sin, you're his manager, man. You're Alan Wake's trainer.
He's rubbing my shoulders.
Give him a punch over there. Get him, Jeremy.
He's got money on the other guy.
Hit him with the left arm. No. I think Alan Wake 2. I think when it's, like I said, when it's doing things well, it's doing them better than anyone else is doing. And it's doing things that no one else is doing. Jeremy complimented it for the same reason. When you're playing the early parts of it, when you're enjoying the world that they've created, when you're walking through Bright Springs or whatever, Bright Falls, Night Springs is the show. Bright Falls is the area. And like you're going through the world and they have these like realized places. It feels like people live there. It feels like they're not real people. And it feels like a lot of them are just kind of existing, but like they're there and it feels like a city. I feel like I'm in a place. And then when it's doing the weird stuff and with Alan Wake's half of the game, it really is the kind of thing that I don't think a lot of games are doing. It has moments where I'm like, who did they make this for? There's no way they made this for a regular audience. Like, why are they? It's amazing. I love it. I'm sure there are tons of people who loved it. Obviously there are, but so it feels like a game that has this huge epic, literally and figuratively budget, this AAA budget that it shouldn't have. And it's spending it on things that don't matter to regular people who don't get involved in game worlds like this. It has commercials that you're supposed to sit there and watch. It has radio ads and like, talk radio bits that like, who's going to sit there and listen to that? Live action things, like who's going to sit there and watch that? And it turns out it's like most people who really like this game love that part of it. That's like a lot of people's favorite parts of the game is just experiencing those moments.
We're not litigating off what other people like.
Well, I'm one of those people.
So
I'm the other people.
What is it you...
Yeah,
okay, cool.
I'm just saying it to...
So what is it you... Like, what are the parts of the games that you enjoy? And
all of the things I just mentioned. And I'm just saying other people because... I'm just trying to make it clear that it's not just me. I'm aware of a lot of people who share the opinion. I really enjoyed those parts of the game. I think when you are seeing those things, hearing those things, when I saw and heard those things, when I sat down and watched 10-minute long things that you could, like Jeremy said, you could just completely ignore, I was absolutely flabbergasted that they were allowed to and succeeded in doing these things in this game. And I loved those parts. I really, really enjoyed them.
Yeah,
so the weirdness, the sort of Alan Wake puzzly, all that sort of stuff, like the production value, that type of stuff, right?
Like the stuff that wasn't like a necessary part of the game. That wasn't like, oh, okay, go to this quest. The world that you got to inhabit and the things in it that you got to see and experience.
Yeah, I think that it's such a that is probably my favorite thing about this game is that it feels
like the tone, or the vibe, or
it feels to me like they're the feel, like we talked about Silent Hill in the previous episode when we talked about Alan Wake and how if a game just wants you to walk around looking at shit, it needs to have such a level of confidence in itself, and it needs to like fill out the world with sufficiently interesting and fully realized things that it feels like there is a world there to explore. And I feel like what this game is doing early on is that like as you progress through the story and you're like, oh, like go to the sheriff's station and then like meet so and so down in the basement, I felt like I wanted to walk around the sheriff's station and look at things. I felt like I wanted to walk around the local inn and like check all the rooms and stuff because this world felt like it was a world worth exploring. Yeah. And it felt like there was a confidence in the vision of this game that they early on, especially in the game, I feel like this fell off later, is that the game had confidence in itself to let the player go free, and confidence that if you were going to go into these weird little corners and weird little like hotel rooms and stuff, there was little touches. And a lot of this is aesthetic and not so interactive.
I guess the thing I'm confusing about is that you can't. Like, this game is incredibly linear.
Not early on, though. I think that's the thing that changes for me.
You're saying not early on.
Early on in the game, I think when you're in...
Yeah. So to my point, I know it is. Like, you can't go and do loads of shit. You can't go into all these other buildings. Like, they give you the impression that you can. It's a really good, like, single play. It's like Half-Life or any of these games where it feels like there's a broader world. They've done a good job of like making it feel like there is a broader world around you. But you're on a golden path for all those early sections.
I agree. I think that what it did early on was create the illusion that it was going to be
the illusion of it. 100%.
But I think in those localized environments where you can explore, because you're right. Like, you can't go into the random apartment.
Yeah, the rooms are gorgeous. They have all that detail and all that stuff.
It felt to me like I guess that's what I'm saying, is that like those localized pockets where it felt more fully realized to me, it was communicating to me that this was a certain type of game that then it did not go on to pay off on. It felt like, you know what I mean? Like, I guess a lot of what I'm saying is that like this game is very good at spectacle. And I think that the spectacle was hiding that like those pockets of depth and detail were more localized than it initially seemed. And I think that ties into the original Alan Wake 1, because Alan Wake 1 was a game that had like a notoriously difficult development, if I recall correctly. And what happened was that there was like this open world, more like survival-y kind of thing, and they had to triage the game and cut a bunch of that shit out and make it more linear to finally release it.
This could also be the byproduct of the fact that you've not played many of these new Remedy games, because all these games are super linear. I would actually argue that Control is weirdly the one that steps out of that.
Well,
because it's more of a Metroidvania thing, whereas like Quantum Break, Alan Wake 2, like even the Max Payne games, like all these games are very Golden Pathy.
Yeah.
It's not a criticism of them. I'm saying like I never got the impression earlier on in this game that this is going to be something that'll let you do anything except what they wanted you to do next.
For sure, but I feel like my naivete around that is actually of like utility here, because what it allows us is insight into, as I began to play this game not having a preconceived notion of what a Remedy game is, I saw the potential for a game that really intrigued me. And
yeah, that's what I'm saying. I think you came in with you had no expectations of what this thing was.
Yeah.
So then you had your own expectations spoiled on you.
Yeah.
Because you thought it was something else, whereas somebody who's played other Remedy games likely wouldn't have had that, because it's not that far outside of the way that they make those games. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Weirdly enough, I find, and I've not completed it or gotten further, but if you guys are saying that the early parts are the more open parts, then the early open parts of this game are way more constrained than even Control was. And that's a game that, at least for big chunks of it, does lead you down a pretty deterministic golden path, at least in terms of the quest design. If not the world is weirdly Metroidvania-esque in a sort of a light way, which their other games aren't.
I think I can like tie together what I was trying to express by saying that there was a version of Alan Wake 1 that didn't get made that was more of an open world, go do your thing, and there's like survival stuff, and they had to triage that into a more linear experience, a more Golden Path driven experience. And I think when they made Alan Wake 2, instead of revisiting the idea of a more open world, they leaned super hard into the Golden Path thing that they've been doing with these other Remedy games, from what I gather. And to me, Alan Wake 2 was a game that what I think would have benefited, and it's a totally different type of game, and there's like a million production reasons that like you don't make this type of game. It's probably a much harder game to make.
But can't write the game they made the way they, in that way, it's a different game.
Right? There are games like Mizurna Falls where and Mizurna Falls is a shitty game. I'm not saying it's a better game, but a game where you're in a town, it is an environment, and they just say, all right, go off and figure it out. I think Alan Wake 2, I think it would have enhanced all of the mechanics. I think the pin board where you're putting up clues and stuff, I think that would have been much more meaningful, as opposed to just a perfunctory thing where it's like, all right, I've collected them and I'm going to put them in the obvious spots now. I didn't feel like I was being a detective.
Likely, I don't want to litigate against this game against some hypothetical one that we would have enjoyed playing more. There was, I guess what I want to get to on the meat of this is that this game got put on this list because a lot of you liked it.
Yeah.
And now it sounds like there's a lot of negativity. And I don't want to talk about externalistic reasons as to why that might be the case, aside from the fact I get to why you're saying with this was a version of the game I thought I was getting, and ultimately it fell short of those expectations, and that was disappointing to me, and that's completely valid. But what I'm saying is, like, does the game still get on the list then? If you guys are saying that, like, Frank digged it, he's happy, he's hopped up on whatever fucking oxycodone or whatever he gave him. Was that this game or no? That was Midnight Suns. He's just hanging out. He's enjoying it. It got me. I stopped playing and started watching X-Files, so I'm not sure I'm the best person to talk about it. But do you still think it, like, because it sounds like most of what you guys are walking away from is kind of disappointment?
Yeah,
maybe.
I think in a if I'm being totally honest, I think that there were not that many games this year that I connected with, and I think that in light of that, the elements of this experience that I valued, I think, are still laudatory and, like, worth highlighting and praising. As a whole, I don't know. I have very mixed feelings about this game. The things that I like are worth praising, but the things that I disliked are very, very strong.
How would both of you feel about giving the first half of Alan Wake an award? Of Alan Wake 2, sorry.
I mean, that's funny, but I think you've got to give it to the whole thing, right? It's like, it's the things that I liked about it persisted throughout the whole game. It's just that the things that I didn't like about it got worse as time went on. And became a bigger, more glaring problem. Like Jeremy has said, the smaller spaces, like, yeah, you're right. Control is a video game that by and large is a lot broader. It has a lot more spaces, a lot more biomes than Alan Wake has. But like Jeremy's saying, when you go into a room and Control, the best thing you're going to see is like a binder and like a piece of paper on a desk. Here, like, you'll see a woman knocking on a door and then go into a different room and read a note about how hard her life has been with her partner, and like stuff like that doesn't matter, but builds up this world, creates this space, gives you all this depth and this rich texture to a world that ultimately doesn't have any by the end of it, to me, and I guess to Jeremy. Like, it feels like it does, and then by the end of it you're like, did it even matter? Like, why were we doing all of this? Why did I care about this world so much if clearly the game was like, who gives a shit? Like, it's so frustrating. But again, like, as time goes on, even at the points where I was having the least fun playing Alan Wake 2, when I stopped doing the things that weren't fun and I started to engage with the things that I did enjoy, when I watched the commercials, when I read the notes, when I read random things in the world, when I sat and watched two NPCs have a conversation about things that don't matter but like did to the world, I cared about it again. It's the same reason I liked Final Fantasy 16, because I love when worlds are presenting themselves in this way where they care about what they're talking about, where they believe in themselves, and when the world and its characters feel fully realized. That's what I think Alan Wake 2 succeeds in. It's just, it doesn't stick the landing all the way, is the only thing.
Okay. It's funny because it's like, it's not dissimilar from the problem we have with Midnight Suns. We're trying to come up with a name for that, where like there's a lot, well, at least for me and Jeremy, that's the case, where it's, and I feel like me and Jeremy, sounds like we're both on the side of, we don't necessarily want to color the entire game with the obvious subjectivity of the fact that we just don't like Marvel shit. Yeah. It feels unfair a little bit in that respect, whereas this feels a bit more like, no, this is the game's fault. This is the game. Yeah. And you guys are, in fairness, you guys are singing from the same hymn book. You know, this feels like something that is maybe perhaps not universal, but seems like it's you're saying the same thing, and that there must be something to that for sure. So I don't know. What do you? It's like the wheat and the chaff. It's like you got it all. You know,
I think it's something about like the details of this world and the confidence in its vision. I think that those are the things that intoxicated me and pulled me in and got me invested. Because like I said, in a game where you're just, especially parts where you're just walking around looking at shit, like if they don't believe in the vision of the game, you'll never believe in it. And if you don't believe in it, you'll never be immersed and care about going around and just like reading notes and stuff. So I think that like it's something about like the care that went into world building elements is what it feels like is where this shines. I mean, the multimedia stuff is also praiseworthy. It's just, to me, that felt like frosting on the cake, not like a layer of the cake.
Yeah, I mean, it's the confidence that comes through in that stuff to me, like the belief in its ability to pull off what other properties have already done, the things that inspire them. I mean, this game wears its inspirations on its sleeve half the time. So the fact that they approached these things that are so beloved and did it in a way that clearly people who like those things really like what Alan Wake 2 is doing, I think speaks to their a skill as creatives for sure. But yeah, I know it's hard to give an award for this because like it's hard to, what do we give it, the most realized world that ended up
I
not
know.
feeling the
Yeah.
most
Oldest
realized.
It's the, like,
Yeah.
it's like it's just like something in every corner. But it's funny because the corners are the best part of the game. So it's like, I don't know.
Let's just give it the Herald of Light award. Let's just do that.
Well, for me, like coffee is such a huge thing of this game. Even on Sam Lake's Twitter, like there's even a coffee world. But the thing that came to mind is boldest flavor.
Ooh.
Oh, that's pretty good.
Oh,
Actually.
that's not bad.
That's pretty good.
Bold is the perfect
Yeah,
word.
like take it or leave
Yeah,
it.
exactly.
Because
Yeah.
it is like a flavor that alienated me, but it had a bad aftertaste. But like
Mhm.
initially,
It's just
I
like
was
a shit
"Ooh,
black coffee. Yeah, all
I
right.
like what they're serving here. Yeah, and it is it gets to the point that, like, you know, from what you guys are saying about other Remedy games, it sounds like they have a very particular. I mean, Max Payne 1 is the only Remedy game I've ever played other than this. So
Oh, man.
I can't really.
You haven't even played Max Payne 2?
No.
Oh,
It's so dope.
that's so, I love that
I know.
game.
Yeah. So I think Boldest Flavor is really good.
Taste, aftertaste, acquired taste. We're not saying acquired taste either because this is not.
Yeah.
This is not
It's
a.
like unique taste is it's
Yeah.
Boldest Flavor. It
I
is
really like
strong.
Boldest flavor.
Boldest Flavor is pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or like something blend.
Sorry, go ahead.
Like bold, like a special
Boulder's Gate.
Special.
Boldest
No,
blend. I don't know.
Ooh, blend.
Yeah,
Nice,
blend.
yeah.
Yeah, blend.
Yeah, it's like a
Blend. Is there a weird type of like coffee that people like?
What's
and
the
don't?
coffee
Kopi
that
Luwak, the one
that's
with
made from
the
like the baboons
Luwak
that
shit?
eat it and then shit it
Dung
out?
beetle or whatever?
No, it's like a
yeah.
monkey that eats it. I think it's a monkey.
Kopi Luwak.
Oh, is that guano?
Yeah, no,
something
it's
like
the Luwak shits out coffee beans and then they make them into coffee. Right?
What if we
Kopi Luwak.
give this game the award for the fucking a monkey shit this out? That's what
Shit,
that's what this
monkey
game
shit
is.
coffee.
Also known as civet coffee.
There you go.
Consists partially of digested coffee cherries eaten and defecated by the Asian palm civet. All right, we're getting off track here. Sorry.
Kopi Luwak. That's what I was thinking of.
Yeah.
The only problem with Boldest Flavor is that I wouldn't necessarily know that was a coffee reference.
No, I know.
immediately.
But that's
Would you
okay if
guys?
it's not a
No.
coffee reference because it's like Alan Wake 2 isn't a game about coffee. It just has coffee in it. Like it's just a good pull that Frank pulled
Yeah.
for the connection.
Yeah.
To give it a good
agreed.
title.
Boldest.
Yeah, like
All right,
Boldest
let's
Flavor.
put it. Let's
special
put.
blend.
Let's put it there for the moment. We'll come back to it. That is pretty good though. You're right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think we're gonna get Frank Hallie's like that fucking ninja
He's just so
in the
good at
corner who he's just quiet in the background and he comes out with the fucking kill
Dude,
shot.
he's
right
like
at
the
end.
intern. That's a weird thing to say because you've obviously not the intern here. I guess I would be. But you're like the intern at the marketing meeting who's just like, anyone have any good ideas? And you're like, this one. And it's like, oh shit, give this guy a raise.
Hell yeah.
Why do we call it MySpace?
That's stupid. We're calling it something else. Facebook.
Should we go back to the other ones then? It's getting an award, we're saying, but it's a qualified award maybe in some way. Boldest Flavor feels like a sort of. I like Boldest Flavor because you can interpret that
Yep.
in a couple of different ways. Actually,
You can
yeah.
dislike a bold flavor as well.
It's
Mhm.
true.
Can we lock it in?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's-
I love it.
I think it's pretty
Yeah,
good.
all right.
I don't think we're beating
Good
it.
job, everyone. Boldest
Good job,
Flavor.
Frank.
That's dope.
That's real.
Nice one. And thanks for fighting your corners. I wanted to push you guys a little bit there. It was interesting to hear it was crazy how the deeper we got into that, both of you guys were like simpatico
Yeah.
with what you didn't like. I wasn't expecting that at all. And what you did like as well, weirdly enough, you were both kind of saying the same thing. I'm actually kind of more interested to play it now as well after hearing you both talk
It's a
about
very
it.
bold flavor.
You got to go down Saga's path.
Yeah.
There's like a
Okay.
The
Saga
story
stuff
is the
that's
best.
awesome.
Dude, when she does that, no, I'm just kidding.
Got him. Fucking got him, dude.
Just fucking with me now. Okay, so we got Boldest Flavor locked in. So we have 3 left to do. 2 of them have temporary names, and 1 of them is open for discussion. Let's go to Baldur's Gate 3 for a moment. How do we feel about best immersive sim in the cold day of light of day, if you will?
It's funny and fitting. I wonder if we can do better.
It misses
But
the
it's-
narrative aspect of Baldur's Gate, which is, I would say, its best element, personally.
Yeah, it's like it's like this, like the fact that it is so not multifaceted. What's the word I'm looking for? That it can go. It's like a hiking trail that has a billion diversions on it. Like
Yeah.
in my mind, it is like an infinitely. It's like
Choice.
Indra's web in Hindu mythology. It's just like this infinitely complex web of possibilities.
There's a reference.
Can
we
always
all
count on
got.
the deep pull.
As you guys
Yeah,
are
from Jeremy.
familiar with Indra's web, of course.
It's like
Yeah,
Charlotte's
right?
Web.
Is there a pig in that one that makes
It's
friends
the
with a
Indian
spider?
version of Charlotte's Web. It's just like, I don't know. it's just so complex.
Choice paralysis, the video game.
Yeah.
There's an album by Anamanaguchi called Endless Fantasy, and like not to
that's pretty
but
good.
I just like that. That's such a good springboard though. But
Frank's
That's
just
pretty
coming in
good 'cause
hot
it's
every time.
fantasy role-playing game, Endless Fantasy. That's pretty good, and it also expresses
The opposite of Final Fantasy, isn't it?
yeah, Endless Fantasy.
That's why it's
Is that
good.
the joke?
No, because I have a lot of friends who have done multiple playthroughs of this game, and then they also want to
Right.
do co-op playthroughs. Like, there's so many different ways of doing it. Like, I will say also something that's very funny with this game is like, there's a mission where you're supposed to save like a and the die. Oh, whatever.
All right, we're cutting that.
All right, bleep it. Whatever.
Well, I can make an argument for not believing that because there are a ton of.
We're bleeping it. Let's move on.
Okay,
Let's-
all right.
Frank, do you want to make that point again without?
Yeah, very early on in the game, there's like a story. There's a mission you do, and like I was just playing it and didn't realize the consequence was so significant that when I told friends, they're like, "Wait, you did that?" Like, and I was like, "I don't know." And apparently, my playthrough is so unique because I'm the only one who's doing it this way, and it's like, oh, I didn't even know that. So. There's like Jeremy said, there's so many different paths or avenues you can do, and yeah,
We've already given Dave the Diver the Hidden Depth Award. We can't do another one. That kind of sounds like you're going down that route as well.
Yeah, this is a tough one. I'm just trying to think of like visual metaphors for something with a ton of different paths or like tunnels running
Like
through
a dungeon.
like some sort of dungeon.
Yeah, with a dragon.
Maybe
in
there's
it.
dragons
Yeah.
in there.
Endless dungeon.
Endless
there's also stuff with
dungeon.
like with dice rolls, there's like probability, chance, like endless odds. Like there's so many.
Yeah.
Okay, we've got that one. We also have Midnight Suns, which we have zero anything for at the moment, and then we also have Typecast. We have Keyboard Warrior, which I'm not mad about.
No, it's not great.
Mavis Peking teaches shooting is
I was gonna for Midnight.
getting closer to something I'd like, but I still don't think that's very good either.
This isn't signify like the gameplay element, but with Midnight Suns, I was thinking Marvel's Swan Song because it really is like here's the last good thing from this empire.
I don't know if that's
The
I think
farewell Marvel.
That's a very 2023 thing to say. I think we're probably gonna get a lot more Marvel stuff next year. It mightn't last the test of time.
I do like trying to get Marvel in there though, like a marvelous tactic or something stupid like that.
The only good Marvel thing.
It's a marvel that Marvel lasted this long.
Oh yeah, there you go.
Sorry, I don't mean to hate on Marvel. I feel like the guy who hated spaghetti.
I don't even
Westerns,
like it
was
that
like,
much.
And it was like 1981, and I was like, finally, we're done with all this Clint Eastwood bullshit.
Cowboys weren't really like that at all.
They love coffee. It's like Alan Wake.
Annoyed.
Oh man. Yeah,
Well, I
these
mean,
ones are
like
tough.
the base of it, of the award is it like best game of 22, the best missed game of last year, like whatever the way you want to say it, but it's like that is what that award is, or why it's even nominated. It was the best game from the previous year. I don't know how to tighten that, but best missed game, best last year's game, best overlooked game. I don't know.
It's tough for me to weigh
is
in on
true.
this one because for me the thing that stands out is that I liked it.
Is that I liked it in spite of?
Yeah,
Well, what did you like about it in spite of the fact
Yeah, that's
that it was
a good-
Marvel?
that's a good
How about
prod.
we go there?
Yeah, no, it's like it's so rare that I play a tactical RPG or tactical game or whatever you want to, like a new combat system that feels like a clever new combat system. It's not XCOM, it's not Baldur's Gate. It's like doing its own, creating a new niche in like tactics RPG combat that I thought was very unique and interesting. It's like inventing a new micro genre.
There was a game like this that came out. It was an indie game, and I'm stealing this from a colleague of mine, Henry. Video games are bad is their YouTube channel. When we were playing it, we were all kind of talking about it in a Discord, and we were like, "Oh, this reminds me of this indie game, Fights in Tight Spaces." Was the name of the game. It's like a slightly grid-based card action game. It looks very similar to Midnight Suns. I don't know if there's inspiration there, but it looks very similar. And he referred to it as tights in fight spaces. And I was like, that's funny. That's a funny ha ha ha. But of course you have to know the indie game for it to work. But just remember the mechanic, how similar that is. But you're right, it is a very unique gameplay system, and the way the cards play into things. Yeah. How do you can we make like a poker joke? like a good hand. This is like a royal flush because it's Marvel.
The
and
more
it's
you guys
bad.
talk, the more I'm like, just give it best immersive sim. I don't know if
That's Baldur's Gate.
Oh, what do you? Oh, sorry. You guys talking about
Midnight Suns.
Midnight Suns.
Typecast? Oh, Midnight
Yeah.
Suns. Oh shit. Okay. Fuck.
Sorry, you've got Baldur's Gate on the brain, trying to figure out a fun
I
title.
actually was I have typecast. I'm
Oh,
trying
okay.
to think. I got keystroke in my mind. Now I'm trying to think of like keystroke yourself. Or
What?
Stroke your
Here's an award. Enjoy your
keystroke.
stroking award.
That's where I want to go. Yeah.
That's where you want to go?
Keys.
Turn
That's
your
where I
camera
want to go
on.
with it. That's where I'm
Go
I'm
ahead.
feeling chaos. It's no, leave the chaos. Leave it on.
Leave it.
Patreon.
Make you watch Midnight Suns. Okay.
Yeah, I feel like Midnight Suns has to be it has to be about the mechanics because I feel like that's the thing that I don't know. I mean, Jesse, this is your pick, so I don't want to like trump over it. I was just thinking that like as a group, if we're working on a title together, it's like the thing that we all have in common that we think was very strong about it.
The other total cop out one for this is what I sort of was the original. This gets on the list, which is we say it's 2022's best game of 2023.
Yeah.
Or 2023's best game of 2022.
I mean, I
would
guess that's
say-
fine. It's definitely a cop out. Yeah, definitely. I don't
good,
feel like
definitely.
coming up with an
No,
award name.
but I think that's the reason it's on here. So I think it's okay to that's
not the reason
that's
I have it on here.
sharpest thing. Oh, okay.
Yeah, I feel like
I
the
just
only
think it's
problem with
a
that
good game
is
for
that
many reasons.
I think the problem with that is that every year we'll run into the problem where any game released in December will only ever be able to be praised for being from the prior year.
Not necessarily if it's good and it gets its own
Okay.
thing.
Not
I'm just
Midnight
saying
Suns.
this year
It's just this year if we're stuck.
The Midnight Suns
we're
Award.
stuck with this. We're not sure
Yeah.
where it's qualified in some way. Boldest Flavor totally killed that off though. That was like
Yeah, that was great.
that did it. That like made it inert, like any of the like heat that was on it, the good and the bad. It was like, yeah, that works. So I don't know,
Yeah, I just had one on the tip of my
like a
tongue.
mixed hand. Is there any card thing about having good cards and bad cards? Play the cards you got.
I just lost it. Oh my god, I just had one and I lost it. No.
Oh man, that sucks.
That was it too. It
was
was a
the
really
one.
good one. It was the one, yeah.
Give it know when to fold them because of
Know when to
Firaxis.
fold 'em.
That's just sad.
Know when to fold
That's
them.
just
Oh
sad.
God.
I'm sorry. Apologies to the team of Firaxis.
Fold.
Oh, what I was
Fold.
gonna say, it's not as good as it's never as good when you're
All
remembering it.
in.
But I was gonna
No.
say the because it's tactical and it's about like positional awareness is the major defining factor of the combat for me. I was thinking the he's right behind me, isn't he award? Because that's,
That's
quip
really
that
funny.
Marvel
It doesn't really explain the mechanics, but I do
no,
like
it's,
that a
it's
lot.
not. It's not as good as I thought it was gonna be, but it's pretty.
Is that a
funny.
reference I'm not picking
It's
up
like
on? What is-
it's like the archetypal like quippy line where someone's like,
Oh,
and
yeah,
then the
sorry.
fucking
Yeah,
guy
yeah,
showed
yeah,
up. What an
yeah.
idiot! Oh, he's right behind me, isn't he?
Right,
Yeah.
That's such a Marvel.
There is something funny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There is something like best Marvel game of the year. I've just
See, now
no one
that
cared
I
about
like.
Spider-Man 2, but Midnight Suns.
Spider-Man.
It is
Who
also
would've
the
liked?
underground Marvel game of the year.
That is true.
For some reason, All In my head is there because it's like it's card based.
Yeah.
It's like you don't know if it's going to be good or bad,
Mm.
and also this game has so much fucking in it. Like there's so much like stuff, like especially in the non-combat house stuff, whatever that's
Abbey?
called.
Is it called an
The
Abbey?
chateau. The
I think that's
Abbey
right.
makes sense. That makes more
Yeah.
sense. Yeah, because we were dodging between church and school and house. Abbey.
What's an
seems to
Abbey? It's the
encompass
midpoint
Yeah,
of
all
those.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. The Venn diagram.
Let's give it the
intersection of all three of
Catholic
those.
Guilty Pleasure Award. Let's give it.
The Dear Abbey award.
Jeez. Dear Abbey. Yeah, dear.
I do
Abbey.
like All In or like full deck, playing with a full deck or something.
Full deck. Oh, full deck's not
Yeah.
bad. Yeah, full
Stacking
deck.
the cards,
There's a
stacking the
lot,
deck,
yeah.
stuff like that.
Yeah.
Because you do kind of
Card
pick your
shark.
deck.
Is there a Marvel hero who's a shark? Is there, like,
No,
Shark
there is
Man?
someone who
Shark
uses
Man.
cards, which
Okay.
is what I thought you were going to
What's his
ask.
name?
Gambit.
Gambit, yeah.
Gambit.
Wait, why the
Oh, yeah.
shark?
Card Man would be way
shark.
better.
Okay, yeah, all right.
Oh, Cardman, my favorite hero.
Yeah.
It's my favorite guy in South Park.
Yeah.
Card
That's so
man.
stupid.
I love that.
Hard man.
Thank you.
Screw
shame
you
there's not
guys.
a
Okay.
South Park fucking card game.
Not yet, in
Award-
this style.
award writes itself.
I know.
Yeah. There you go. I'd play
Yeah.
that. How about
Yeah.
that?
Yeah,
South
South Park
Park,
would be a
they-
better theme for this game in my
Get
estimation.
the South Park up on this.
Yeah. Yeah, playing with a full deck, all in. I'm trying to just think of card phrases.
I'm literally on a card terminology website now. Check. We're all just scrolling.
I know, this is when it gets hard.
Is this fun podcast
Yeah,
for
don't you enjoy
listener?
this, audio
You enjoying
listener?
this?
There's
Silence
nowhere
is
for us to
just-
run because this is the last one.
Exactly.
This is when it gets. This is when the rubber hits the road.
Yeah, full deck award, full hand, hot hand.
Ooh, hot hand. Yeah.
Suit. What about suit? Cards have suits and
Ooh,
superheroes
and
wear weird suits.
yes. Jeremy's
Okay,
so smart.
you're right. Yeah.
Something like that.
Okay,
Something
we
about
need something with
tightest
suits.
suit.
Ooh, tightest
Jesus.
suits. Yeah, there you
Something
go.
like that.
Give it. Who's got the
Yeah.
tightest suits in the game?
Tightest suit.
Makes us sound like sex
Yeah,
pests.
could be.
We're gonna,
You just didn't do the dating sim stuff. That's your problem. You don't know.
Yeah.
You're right, actually. Yeah.
Like
Birthday suits.
birthday suit. Yeah, it's like oh god, there's no like good phrase. You just say like the suit is just a descriptor. There's no like phrases. Follow suit.
Sounds like an insult.
man.
I do like the suit though. I think it's
I
suit.
know.
Shit.
It's
We're so
like
close.
suited.
It's like we found the path, the path that leads straight to the castle. Then it stops right at the castle, like right at the edge of the castle. It's stopping.
Yeah.
You're like, shit. So
yeah, it's shit.
let's keep going with this. We're hitting
We're
veins
getting
here.
there. You just gotta bash against the wall until something happens. You know.
Oh, apparently there's a thing, and apparently is not a good way to start this because I feel like idioms and phrases need to be well known for these to work as awards. But there's something called a hero call, which is a call made with a speculative hand in the hopes that your opponent is bluffing.
Oh, that'd be so
that's
good if
good.
I'd ever heard of that in
Yeah,
my entire life.
Until
Exactly.
right now. Yeah.
Ugh,
Yeah,
damn.
it doesn't work.
Yeah.
It doesn't work. We don't know.
Suit.
Oh, what about a Joker? Like a Joker card. He's not. That's DC though, so it literally does not work.
You know what? You guys not
Right,
liking
'cause-
Marvel actually, I think, runs that around to making it work.
That is pretty funny.
If you give it an award
It's
for
like our
something from the
ignorance.
wrong property, almost makes
Jokers
it work.
are wild award.
Joker card.
Yeah.
Yeah. Joker.
Oh, what about like the wild card award? Because this is like a weird game
Yeah,
that
it's
kind of
not bad.
appeals to us. Yeah, that's not great, but it's better. It's better than the follow suit award.
The follow suit award. Okay, we're almost there.
Yeah.
We're almost there. Come on, I can feel it. It's just around the
I
corner.
know.
That's the thing. The only people who know how good we get at this are the listeners who can check how much is left on the podcast.
That's so true.
Once
There's like
once we're
3
down to the
hours
last-
left of this episode.
Yeah, exactly. They're the ones who know. Pocket rockets, man. There's a bunch of really weird
Cards are
poker
horny.
related. Yeah, they are.
Well, yeah.
Pre-flop.
Oh boy,
Pre-flop.
there you go. Speaking of horny,
Pre-flop right now. Probe.
quarter flop.
Probe is here as well. Quarter flop. The pot. It's a great Tool song. It's a Tool.
You guys want to talk about
the
Tool for
soundtrack
15
in
minutes
this.
instead? We could get through one Tool song if we talk about it for 15 minutes. Suit. I really like
Odds
suit
against them.
because Marvel
know.
characters, they're wearing suits. I appreciate the attempt to put the thing you hate in the award.
It's like
We literally just cannot think of
suited up,
any.
suit riot.
Was that a goob? Was that a goob shoe riot? What
No,
was that?
Zoot Suit Riot is an old song by a band with a very provocative name, the
Oh.
Cherry Poppin' Daddies.
Ooh.
Oh
All
my
right.
lord! Oh
It
dear
was a different
lord!
era,
Yeah.
I think.
Wow!
This-
I don't know
I
when
mean,
that
it could
song is.
also
the fucking 1880s.
we could also say it's the like licensed game of the year. Like it's the only game on this list that is a licensed property or an IP, and they actually kill it. Most
Well,
like you know
technically Baldur's
the
Gate.
But
But you're right.
D&D
I get what you're saying.
D&D.
You are right.
Yeah. Like the
Yeah.
intellectual property game of the year. I don't know, but it's like, yeah, there's something there about it's a licensed game, and more often than not, we were talking earlier about like the weird PS2 games. It's like, okay, most of these games are kind of crappy. Sometimes they're great, but this one's surprisingly good. So I don't know, surprisingly good license.
Is there,
games.
is there something about like
good IP?
okay, suits have sleeves, and if you have a card up your sleeve, that's a thing in cards. Is there anything there? Something about sleeves? Is that anything?
Suit up your sleeve. Is that what you
At
want me
the
to say?
card-
Is that what you're trying to go
cards
to?
up your
No,
suit.
man.
Suit up your. Okay, let's park that for a second and walk over to our good friend Typecast
Oh, yeah.
one more time. Is there anything we have? Hidden depth, complex, leaderboard, deceptively deep, frenetic, hidden gem, underappreciated, words per minute.
What if we
bullet
give it
hell.
the Stroke of Genius Award?
Oh, that's pretty good.
Because it's a
Keystroke of
keystroke. If
genius.
you want to make it a pun or wordplay, yeah, you can do keystroke of genius.
Keystroke of genius. Is it a stroke of genius? Is this game a
Absolutely.
stroke of genius?
It's pretty good.
Yeah,
It's
you could argue it's a
yeah,
stroke.
I think it's a very tight idea, and it's doing one thing incredibly well.
Like a singular stroke,
of genius.
but also.
And you got your stroke joke.
Yeah,
in
and there's a
that you were
stroke
looking
joke in
for
there
as
too,
well.
so everyone
There
wins.
you go. We got it in.
Yeah, Stroke of Genius is pretty good.
Stroke of genius.
Yeah, the other thing I was trying to think of is like words per minute, and APM is like a thing in RTS games.
Yeah.
Like your
Yeah,
APM is
actions per minute.
Yeah. But I don't know. I
Yeah.
feel like that's a stretch because it's not really words per minute because you're not. That makes it sound like a typing game,
Right.
which I don't
Yeah.
want to mislead people into thinking this is a typing game.
You have been very
It's
consistent on
not
that
because I
point.
would never play
You
a
do-
typing
yeah.
game because I'm above them.
Typing's for
Because I'm
losers.
not a buster.
Yeah, I'm not a
I'm
buster.
buster. Not a buster ass typing guy.
Man, Jeremy, you a buster.
Buster. What are you always typing for?
Yeah.
God, the more I see Typer Elite, the more I like it, but I don't think it.
Which one?
Yeah. Typer
Oh, Typer.
Elite.
I thought Typer Elite was.
stupid.
That sounds like you're throwing like
gangbusters.
keyboard keycaps
I
at
didn't-
like Hitler's nuts. Like that's the whole game.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That's awesome. Who you don't
exactly
want to do
what
that?
I wanted. That's what I wanted you to picture. in
Dude,
your
if I
head
had a
when
time
said it.
machine, I would go back in time and I would throw the letter Z at Hitler's nuts.
Yeah,
I swear I would do
smash
it.
Hitler's nuts with a keyboard.
Quote me.
Oh boy. Yeah, Stroke of Genius is pretty
Stroke of
good.
Genius is pretty good.
I think it's
We'd have to stick a word at the end.
yeah, true. I like Typer Elite more in my guts, but it doesn't make sense.
Okay. Let's leave Stroke of Genius there. We'll come back
Okay.
to it. Baldur's Gate 3. It's got best immersive sim so far.
It's just like the holy shit, this is an entire world award. Like it's so grand and full of possibility.
Most immersive sim award.
The most immersive sim award.
Just give it the most
It is
game
the most
award.
immersive, and there's also the most game there.
Most sim.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd say most immersive. That is true. It is very immersive.
Yeah, and then that does
Yeah.
kind of half make the immersive sim joke.
Yeah, it's half. That's the problem. It's kind of like it's telling nothing then. It's doing neither. It's like
Yeah.
it feels too sincere if we just call it most immersive.
Yeah.
Like in a weird way, this game is kind of like a hard game to give an award that isn't just game of the year. You know what I mean? Everything else feels
Yeah, I mean, it won that and then 9 other things at the Game Awards. So I get what you're saying.
All right.
Give it best ongoing game, best community support. Why not?
What do you call it when you roll a perfect 20? Like a natural
Nat
20,
20?
a nat 20.
Oh,
There's something about
natural?
it being like exceptional. Like they you know, like if this game was a dice roll, they got a 20 out of 20. It's incredible. Like
Yeah.
I don't know where to go from there. Natural 20.
I feel like it's not necessarily in the spirit of these awards to be so superlative.
Mm.
Like best AMV for Final Fantasy 16. You know what I mean? There's a
That's what it
certain
deserves.
there's a certain wink that's happening with a lot of these.
Yeah, agreed.
Hmm.
Man, the problem with a lot of RPG terms is that they're so hammy that you're like, it's the level up. The genre is
Yeah.
it's so like
It's so like gamer language, like you're trying to name your
Yeah.
YouTube
Oh,
channel.
I
That's
like
what it sounds
that.
like.
yeah.
Like Noclip or something.
Yeah.
It's
Just
really
fucking
good.
popped into my head on a
It
run.
sucks how good it is.
I got
though.
a fucking
It sucks how good
20.
it is.
Well, that was it. I was done then
Yeah.
because like I'd gone through 58,000 terrible ideas on various runs, and then one night I remember the fucking house I was outside when it happened. I went, oh, that's it, got it, great.
Nice.
Don't forget that. We're good.
That's awesome.
Man.
And stop where I'm bad at naming.
Gotta do a
things,
doc
so
on that
it's
house.
Yeah. What do we have? What are our let me open the doc here.
We got Baldur's Gate 3, Midnight Suns, and Typecast. Baldur's Gate 3, the words we have in there are layered, special, interactive, immersive sim. It's so good. Relationships, possibilities, open choice, fantasy. The fantasy open choice possibility, it's so good award, interactive.
Brought to you by Nabisco. It's possibility, I think, gets to the heart of what is so good about this game in my estimation.
Like an immersive sim, if you
Yeah.
Yeah, it has a lot of possibility space. Yeah, like an immersive.
It's like the endless possibility award or something. It's like something that if it was clever, if I was smarter, it would be that, but clever.
What did Frank say earlier?
Endless
You were
Fantasy,
referencing a
which
song.
I also think is good.
Was it Endless Fantasy? Yeah.
Endless Fantasy.
It does feel like that.
They just feel too sincere.
I know.
Just,
It needs a little.
Is that a
that's
bad
why it's so
thing?
hard.
Yeah,
Why
we be a
can't
little
it be
sincere.
Yeah, it's just nothing. It was the problem. It was the worry I had with Baldur's Gate 3 coming into this, is that we'd end up trying to give it like this really like austere award, which is like boring in my head. And like, you know, like when the Game Awards are like, a big site does, like, I feel like it like carries the weight, whereas like we're not trying to be that, you know what I mean? We're not trying to be this hub of excellence or anything.
We're just calling it we're just giving it the Endless Fantasy Award. We're not giving it like the only game you need to play award. You know, we're not like, it's not best RPG. Like we're giving it an award for being the best at the thing it is. We're just saying it has this feeling of endless fantasy. Or something in that realm.
I particularly hate that award name.
Okay.
It sounds so
Fair.
lame to me.
All right.
Endless Fantasy. I don't know.
It's like the.
The I Wish Shadowheart Was Real award.
Yeah, there you go, baby. Or
He just came out
Lae'zel
and
if
said
you're
it,
a
didn't he?
freak.
He just came out and said it.
Lae'zel is my girl.
Exactly.
The Digital Girlfriend Award or boyfriend.
I'm sure they sell pillows, you know.
Can we build that? Can I get a Carlac pillow and bill it? Can I do that?
Pillow?
Thanks,
Sure,
man.
it's
Appreciate
research.
it.
Yeah. I mean, you could have before this.
It's too late.
I'm ordering it now
Yeah.
on the pod. Where's my phone?
All right. Typecast Stroke of Genius Award. We lock it in.
Boy, I don't think we're the other thing. I think it's as close as we're gonna get, because the other thing that's hard about this is that the name of the game is like a wordplay on. It's like typecasting. You know what I mean? Because it's casting. You're casting spells. It's typecasting. It's typing.
Oh yeah, I never even picked up on
Yeah.
that. That's
So we're
funny.
doing
That
like
makes way more sense.
We're doing a wordplay about a wordplay game. Like typecast would be a great name for the award, like the overly typecast award.
Yeah, the problem is all of these are wordplay. It's kind of the whole thing.
No, I know.
Unless you just call it, it might be funny to call it best typing game, because
But it's Jeremy has lamented it is not.
best keyboard game,
Damn.
worst game to play on a controller.
All right.
Well, they just ported it to Steam
Yeah,
Deck.
it's okay on
control.
control.
Yeah, so
It's on Steam Deck now.
Yeah,
No, that's Alan
man.
Wake 2. That's the worst game to play on a
you
controller.
like Stroke of Genius. Okay, that's what I'm doing. I'm hot. I'm just jumping from one to one now. Midnight Suns, marvelous
Yeah, see, there you go.
use of IP.
That's a funny one.
Engineering.
Marvelous use of IP is not bad. Because
Except we feel the complete opposite.
no, you don't. Because
necessarily.
you just don't care about the IP. I think, as
I
someone
just
who
don't
does
care.
know about it, I think it's a perfectly good. And you even said this. We used to make games like this where you'd like give a developer an IP and they'd make something dumb and weird. This is super dumb and weird. There's no way in hell Kevin Feige was going to sign off on you get to date Blade.
Yeah.
There was no way he was going to let you do that. And this is the game we got. It's super weird. I think if we can't come up with something, I personally would be okay with that. I think that's actually really funny and it works.
Oh, it's a bit lame. Though.
That's the game. What do you mean? It's Marvel.
Marvel is lame.
It's lame as hell.
True. Marvel is lame. It's true. Marvelously lame award. Marvel.
There you go. That one's
Yeah, what are like?
Ah,
Oh man, I'm gonna look up Marvel quips.
sunsetting.
That just happened award.
That just happened.
That's
there
so
you go.
stupid. Oh my god.
That just
The if you're in there, then who's flying the
It's so
plane
bad.
award?
Oh my god. That's so funny.
That
I
just
actually
happened.
kind of
I feel like that would be so mean to the writers, because I feel like they haven't done that. I feel
Yeah.
like it's definitely better than that stuff. Definitely.
Yeah.
I have no problem with the writing of this game. It's just not for me.
Yeah. This is awkward. We've got company. I don't know why that's so funny.
We've got company.
We've got company.
I feel like
Well,
they
this
say
is
that in
awkward
the
is
game,
pretty
though.
good.
We've got company.
Well, this is awkward. That's how I felt when I liked this game so much. I was like,
Guilty pleasure
is
almost.
awkward.
If we didn't give
what
the
about Catholic guilty pleasure? Does that fit for this one?
Marvel.
Let's give it the I can't believe it's not XCOM
Marvel
award.
hater.
Yeah.
Yeah. Marvel hater guilty pleasure award.
There's too many guilty pleasure awards out here. That's good though.
I'll write it down just because it means it's kind of getting to the core of what me and Jeremy think of it anyway.
Yeah.
I don't think it applies to everyone though, so or it doesn't apply to Jesse, so it's not fair. Go
Fine.
Fuck, man.
Yeah, these are tough ones. That's why they're the last ones left.
It is. We've been putting them off for 4 podcasts. That's why, or 3.
The Peter Quill Memorial Cringe One-Liner Award. The Peter Quill Dance-Off
One-liner.
Award of 2023.
Like, it's better than I expected. Surprisingly good. Exceeds expectations.
Pleasant surprise.
What's the
award.
poker version of that
Pleasant
when someone
surprise,
surprises
isn't
you?
it?
Oh,
Yeah.
the like, I don't know. It's like when you get a card on the river and hold 'em, but I don't know if there's a phrase for that.
Like I bet there is. But it's probably one that no one knows.
There's a
about.
phrase for taking a drink of water while you're playing poker. There has to be a word for that.
Is there?
Is there
I don't
really?
know. I'm just see.
Oh,
I believed it.
yeah, but we thought there might
That's
be.
my point. Yeah, like I don't know. There
Yeah.
probably is.
What was it we said before then? It was you said what? Pleasant surprise.
Yeah,
was
or
it?
like
That's
just
what
being
I wrote down.
surprised when
Yeah.
someone has a good play.
We were talking about all in earlier too. I feel like there's something there.
That's a
but I
very
don't know if it's
Marvel-y
not-
thing
All
for
in.
everyone to be all in.
Yeah.
All in.
Yeah. No, never mind. I was gonna say something dumb. As if everything else I've said has been brilliant. This whole
Absolutely,
I
it
can't
has
risk
been.
saying something dumb.
Don't
at
put
this
yourself
point.
down, Jeremy. You're a
God
legend
forbid.
and a beauty. What are we saying here?
God.
You're a beauty. That's for all. It's for the fans.
Man.
Yeah.
Man.
It's
Okay.
hard because the thing you like is how much it doesn't suck.
We can always just give it the award in January. You have 2 weeks to think it over, you know?
We kept with the podcast recorded today.
And I am
I
not
know.
going to be thinking
Yeah.
about
No,
this over Christmas break.
No, I
Frank's
know.
like, I gotta be somewhere, motherfuckers. You gotta wrap this up.
You have to do it.
Okay, we gotta let's pick one to do it right now. And we're not gonna walk away until we have it, and we are giving ourselves a timer. I'm gonna write a timer,
Okay.
do a timer for 3 minutes, and we're gonna look at typecast because it was the long one we've had the longest for. So we got 3 minutes typecast, and if we don't have it, we're going with Stroke of Genius Award. Go.
Is Stroke of Genius not fine?
Stroke of Genius is if we don't find something better in 3 minutes, we go Stroke of Genius, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, Keyboard Warrior was funny, but not as good as Stroke of Genius. Something about an arcade. I keep picturing an arcade cabinet that has a keyboard instead of like normal buttons and joysticks, and that's a funny image, but I don't know if there's a way to
is
verbally
arcadey.
express it.
Oh yeah,
You know what I mean?
It's kind of like with the Dreamcast and Typing of the Dead.
Yeah, it's
Right,
like
that, which is keyboard.
it's like
I was like something with peripheral vision, because like I always think of key controller peripherals.
I was gonna
So
say
turning your
peripheral, too.
keyboard-
yeah,
peripheral.
peripheral
But then
vision's not bad actually because the game has vision
Yeah.
and it turns your keyboard into a peripheral. It's a new
Yeah.
I don't know. It's a little bit hard
It's
to
the kind of
grok,
game that's
but
just always in the corner of your eye. You're never quite
Yeah.
looking.
I guess you're right. Doesn't sound that
Well, yeah,
Yeah, it's open to interpretation a bit too
Yeah.
much, isn't it?
yeah.
Keyboard.
Score's a big part of it. Score is like, oh, score. Get the
Leaderboards. Is there something
Peripheral euphoria.
Leaderboard?
Keyboard leaderboard. Keyboard leaderboard.
keyboard
Keyboard
euphoria. You get Sydney Sweeney on the award.
Leaderboard keyboard.
We'll just hand the there you go. Enjoy.
Keyboard leaderboard.
Flow.
What's the
I
third
liked
one?
most eye watering because my eyes water playing this game, but it's not it sounds like we're just praising the visuals.
Which also they're totally fine, but it's not,
Yeah, it's not what's good about the game, but it is also good.
Yeah.
Uh
1 minute, 30
okay,
seconds.
all right. Pressure's on, pressure cooking.
Pressure cooker award.
Pressure cooker awards.
Stroke.
Yeah.
Different strokes.
Different
Stroke.
strokes.
Stroke
You take
yourself.
the good, you take the bad.
Stroke.
You take the both of them there, yeah.
Phrases.
Excellent.
Containing
Excellent.
stroke.
Boy.
Grand stroke. Stroke of genius. We already have that. That's what we have.
I don't know if I can't think of anything. Stroke of Genius feels better than everything that's popping into my head.
Yeah. 2-stroke cycle.
Let's wait for the alarm to finish.
We've got, how much is left? 40 seconds. We've got 40 seconds.
If anyone has any late minute zingers, pop them. But
Sunstroke.
Heat stroke. Boy.
I feel like there's a jerk off one that's not going to be.
You don't have to, though.
That's
It's
the
fine.
problem. But it's right there. Master stroke.
That's pretty good, actually. I
Don't
think
say
Stroke
that.
of Genius communicates the better thing, the same thing better, though.
Yeah,
I do like Master being in there, though, because it's funny.
I like it because it gets my master.
Exactly,
joke in there as
yeah.
well. You're using your hand.
Yeah.
5, 4, 3.
Stroke of Genius. It's got to be Stroke of Genius.
Stroke of Genius. All right. Stroke of Genius Award. Congratulations to Typecast. That means we have now finally officially finished all of the games on the first day of this podcast.
Hooray.
So on the first one. So we got around to it eventually. We did it eventually. Okay. Baldur's Gate 3. We'll do 3 minutes starting.
So the game's got a lot of magic, and it's magical. Like every time I play it, I feel like a wizard put it together. Like you have to be able to get magic in there somewhere, right?
Yeah.
Magic.
Like, yeah.
The Feels Like Magic Award or something silly like that.
Spellbinding.
Spellbinding.
Spell is
like
good.
that.
Oh, that would have been good for Typecast. No, just
Go back.
moving forward.
That's really good, actually. Holy shit.
Is it better than Master
Spellbinding. Wait, keybinding. Spellbinding. Oh my god. Wait, did we go
spellbinding.
back?
Yeah.
Give it the Spellbinding Award.
Yeah.
Spellbinding.
Wow.
Spellbinding's
Okay.
going in. Is it? Do you think so? Spellbinding?
Okay, Stroke of Genius.
No,
or
I think we just like how
Spellbinding?
that wordplay works.
I don't know.
Yeah,
Like
'cause the
keybinding,
only word you're
spellbinding?
spelling in is fever, but like because the actual WASD.
Okay, I'm pausing Baldur's Gate. Give me a
No, that's
second.
part of Baldur's.
We're never leaving. We're never leaving
We'll
this
reset
call.
Baldur's Gate. We're resetting Baldur's Gate. Okay, so Spellbinding or Stroke of Genius? That's a good point. We gotta. Pick
I
one.
think
If
Spellbinding.
you were worried about
takes
the wordplay, though, with an award like this, spellbinding and typecast is like you couldn't come up with a more one-word funny haha joke. But you seem like you were worried about the wordplay, like there being too much
But
of
then
it.
Spellbind is the game Spellbinding?
Yes.
I mean,
Like
I think so.
but
Because like the thing that I
it
think is
makes you
spellbinding
not
about
blink.
it is that
Like,
yeah, it's like I forget my body exists in the world when I'm playing this game and I'm pouring tears out of my eyes. It like sucks being so.
Danny's like,
viscerally.
I didn't like it that much.
yeah, or like
I like it that much.
Spellbinding is also open to interpretation. So much like I would interpret Spellbinding as something that is like almost beyond our human abilities to feel a thing. You know what I mean? It feels like so otherly, or it feels a bit superlative.
It does feel like more
Stroke of
narratively
Genius.
related. Like spellbinding feels like a narrative or an immersive world that's pulling at you in. I see that.
Emotive. Yeah, I hear
you're
what you're
right.
saying. Yeah, what I like about Stroke of Genius because you said that one as well. I think.
I think it was Jesse.
Yeah. Was it Jesse? Oh, sorry,
Yeah.
Jesse. What I like about it is that it is a genius idea.
Yeah.
Like it is a very.
All right.
That was one of the things we talked about at the start. Was that it was like one of those like, oh, I wish I came up with that thing. I think Jeremy said that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think Stroke of
Unless
Genius.
Jesse didn't.
I think Jesse nailed it with Stroke of Genius. I think that's the one.
Okay, Spellbinding was good though.
yeah,
Thanks for
good last second Frank pull, as per usual.
Jesus. Okay, here we go.
All right, we're back on Baldur's Gate.
Start 3 minutes. Back on Baldur's
Okay.
Gate.
Something about
Spellbinding.
Magic. You guys were at magic.
Spellbinding.
Mana is what magic runs on. It's like unlimited mana, or like there's
Mana of the gods.
uh,
Dark magic. Magic mushroom.
magic mushroom award.
Magic Johnson.
Okay.
I'm just on a magic
Careful. Don't
phrase.
go down the
website.
Magic Johnson route any further.
Oh,
Just stop there.
God.
Magic flute is here as
Magic
well.
flute.
You could do music. There's bards. Like it's a kind of like the perfect song, or
It's
I don't know.
I everything I want to say is like infinite possibility.
Yeah,
but
everything
it's
is
like
almost
the-
too nice to say about this game.
or like endlessly replayable. That just sound like dry superlatives, not like cheeky little jokes for the boys.
Most gameplay.
Oh boy.
Refined. What are we at? Well, 2 minutes.
Okay.
2
It
minutes.
might actually be the biggest game because how many gigabytes is it to install?
It's like 150
It is
gigs.
way more than Call of Duty
Biggest
at this
to most,
point.
Biggest game is
back
pretty
to
funny.
most immersive sim, maybe.
biggest,
Or
mostest.
biggest immersive sim.
Oh, it's just tough because it is a culmination of so many things that
The
are
things
so
that
good.
are good about it are so dry to praise because you're just like,
Yeah.
oh, it's like
Yeah.
It is the
huge
perfect
and-
Game Awards game.
It's cumulative.
It's like endlessly replayable. It's like everyone has like a unique experience. That's kind of something about it. It's immeasurable. I don't know, man.
Endless. That's just another endless. Immeasurable. Unquantifiable.
Measurable.
Yeah, there you go.
Immense.
Are we really going to give this the best immersive sim? I love it. I think that's great, but it's very funny.
Most immense sim.
I was trying to do that too. It's so clumsy. I was trying to do the same thing. Immensive sim. Oh god, that's so bad. I kind of love it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really terrible.
It is really terrible.
1
Can it
minute,
be the
50
award?
seconds.
It might. Oh.
It
Boy.
Best.
Dude,
man.
I mean,
Why is this one so hard? It's just everything is so sincere.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
straightforward.
I don't mind endless fantasy. It does feel like that. And there's really no other word to describe it.
Endless Fantasy is honestly kind of my favorite. I know Danny hates it, but it might be the
Oh.
best one.
We might have to democracy you here and go with endless fantasy. Or are you going to dictator us? What are you going to do?
No, I wouldn't dictate. I feel like everyone could have
You
a
gonna
veto
mow
if
us
they
right now,
wanted
man?
to use it.
Oh my god.
I'll get you the bicycle.
Why do people always talk about the bad communists? Why can't we just talk, 2 seconds, 1 second. There we go.
True, dude.
Okay, so what? So best immersive sim is what's there, but you guys like endless fantasy. Endless fantasy.
Endless Fantasy, it's not like a word play. Like there's no like clever second layer to it, but I feel like because all of the but in spite of that, I think that is the thing that is great about this game. It's like everyone has a different experience. You can replay the game and have a different experience. Comparing notes with people and how different the divergence of their playthroughs are is like this. The scope of the possibilities in this game is the thing that I feel like deserves praise.
What my only feeling is that like everyone knows already why this game is great. And I feel like us trying to explain it in like our own pithy way just comes across as lame. So
I agree.
That's why I immediately went for the let's just be silly with this one. Although it's also sort of like it does apply, like in a way. I mean, it came from Jesse making that observation. I thought that was like an interesting thing to sort of noodle into a bit.
I was gonna say, if we're playing with the spirit of the game, is each of us should all role play our own award, and each person gives it its own award, because that's how everyone's play style. Everyone has their own character, their own experience. So that's
a good point.
Yeah.
Okay, do you want to do if everyone came up with their own award for this? Okay, mine's best immersive sim. Jeremy, what do you want?
Can I go last?
Does Jesse want endless fantasy?
I mean, I pitched best immersive sim, so I kind of want that.
Fair.
See, now it's happening. See, I've divide and
I
conquer.
am being dictatored right now. I knew it.
Oh my award is still the I Wish Shadowheart was my girlfriend award.
Yeah.
Or no, I Wish Shadowheart was real award.
No, that's good, because that's the most Frank Howley award I could possibly imagine.
Yeah.
There's a part of me that wants to give it something like very dumb, like the Second Life award, because it's like you're living a whole life in this game.
Second Life might have something to say.
I
about
know
that.
exactly. That's why it amuses me so.
We'll let the audience vote on this one, and then we'll if they have a better one.
Yeah, I'm okay. I'm okay with there being 4. Like that's sure.
It's so good it wins 4
there's
awards.
No fucking rules.
Let's go.
We don't have any rules. Yeah, exactly. You got 4 awards, and it got
it won like 7 at the Game
Yeah, exactly.
Awards, so.
We're basically doing our own version of the Keeleys right now. It works.
True.
So you're endless fantasy. So is anyone picking endless fucking fantasy now? Now no one's picking endless fantasy.
I mean, collectively,
if I can give it the Shadowheart award, that's what I'm giving.
Yeah, but if I can't,
well, I have it down. I have Shadowheart down. Endless fantasy is currently off the board because no one's picked it. I'm waiting for one of you to pick it.
Endless Fantasy it's the most descriptive, but I don't. It's like a car that will never break down, but it's like a bright yellow, and I don't want to drive it around. You know what I mean?
It's your dad's Camaro in the garage.
That's why I didn't want to name it that.
Yeah. It's reliable, but do we love it?
Do you guys have your own ones you want to throw in there?
I got nothing for this one because everything is just so. It's just like the limitless, endless
Everything's being too nice.
Yeah.
I mean, I really like Best Immersive Sim just because that's what I liked about it the most.
Okay. Well, then it's not a fucking dictatorship.
Well, not
anymore.
anymore.
If the
I
two of us
said
voting for
you
it.
Danny youthed me. You got me.
You radicalized
I didn't
him.
use like fucking. I didn't use like Jedi
You just
mind
tactical
tricks.
warfare to me. No,
I
I'm
saw
just
you
playing.
wave your
I'm just
hand.
playing. I'm just playing.
I was doing the opposite. I was trying to open it up, and then suddenly, in the cold light of day, everyone realized that they didn't really want to call it that.
Yeah.
Best immersive sim.
Yeah,
Sorry,
if there was
Jeremy.
a way to infuse the limitless possibility into that, but I don't think there is.
Immersive
Most
Sims
immersive
have a lot
sim.
of options.
Yeah.
Most immersive sim. Most being not that it's most immersive, that there is the most of it.
Yeah.
Is what more my interest. Is there a word that we have that doesn't require that clarification?
I think most immersive sim might be the one because it has the secondary meaning of being that there's the most game. I feel like if you change that word out, you lose the double meaning of it.
So so the double meaning is good.
I think the double
'cause
meaning
it's
is
like
good. Yeah.
it is the most immersive sim, and it has the most immersive.
I think if we lose most immersive sim, if we lose either element, I think if we take most out, you lose the like infinite possibility element of it. And if you lose
Right.
immersive sim, then we're just like, it's the grandest adventure award, which was the problem we had with Elden Ring last year.
Yeah.
Right. Yes, you're right. It was. God, you're right. It
Yeah.
was. So immersive immersive sim. The fact that most can be interpreted in the other ways is sort of evocative of the fact that this game is just sort of like fractal, and you can do fucking. It is all things to all people. Most immersive sim. I think that's
That is
funny.
funny.
I think that's
It's like
good.
2 awards in one. It's great.
Yeah. Okay. We locked in?
Yeah.
Most immersive
We're
sim.
locked in.
Locked in. Okay. Last one we have is Midnight Suns. I'm going to put 5 minutes on the board for this because right now we have diddly
Yeah.
squat. 5 minutes on the board. Does anyone need to be anywhere in 10 minutes, by the way? It's almost coming up on an hour. You're okay?
I'm good.
All right.
Hopefully we'll
All
get
right.
this done.
The
Time.
bathroom, maybe.
Midnight Suns. Luck of the draw.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It draws you
I'm
in.
trying to
Uh,
draws you in.
Draws.
I'm trying to think of superhero phrases now. And then it can work backwards into cards. You know what I mean?
I'm going to go with what I like about this
Okay.
game. What do I like about this game?
I like that it wasn't bad.
Tactical strategy, the texture to it. There's so much going on.
No, what about the no one cared who I was until I put on the suit award? And it's the suit because of cards.
I like that. I actually
God, we've fucking reached the end of our sanity.
No,
at
I
this
love
stage.
edibles kicking
wordy
in.
awards though. I'm a wordy award
Isn't that
guy.
DC again?
What?
Isn't that DC again? Isn't that a Bane line?
Yeah,
Oh, is
it
that?
is.
Oh, is that?
No,
Bane?
it
No,
was-
that was the mask.
No, yeah.
Oh, that was
the
no one
mask.
That
cared
was the
before I
best.
put on the mask.
No, that's what I was
Yeah,
thinking.
you're right.
But that works with what I said earlier of you guys not giving a shit about the property so much
That is
that you
pretty
give it
funny.
the
Get the
wrong
property wrong.
properties
Yeah,
quote
muddling
award.
the IP is pretty funny, actually.
Yeah.
Oh, what I don't like about it is that it could be interpreted as in nobody cares about Firaxis games until they put on the Marvel suit, and I would say
Yeah,
the
absolute
opposite is true on
opposite.
this
Yeah,
one.
it kind of communicates the wrong message here.
Damn.
Is there an XCOM X, like something that rhymes with com? That we
Yeah,
can-
there's also
that is
like X-Men, so some House of X.
Hey,
House of
yeah.
X-Men.
Wait, how have I never made
X-Men.
that connection?
Is X-Men Marvel?
It
Yeah,
is.
Wolverine's in it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is.
Yeah,
Wolverine's in the
yeah.
key art. Yeah, okay. X-Men, XCOM.
XCOM Deadly Alliance.
Yeah, XCOM game titles. There you go. There you go.
Yeah.
Right.
Uh,
XCOM Enemy Unknown. XCOM. Is there a what did you guys call that? Enemy Unknown was called something else over here. There was Terror from the Deep, there was Enemy Unknown, there was UFO Defense, you guys called Enemy Unknown. In America, you guys. some
The
American
Bureau
should say that.
X-Men Declassified. Let's call it.
What's the most recognizable X? Because I'm trying to think. It needs to communicate. Like if we
Right.
said XCOM Terror from the Deep,
Future
people would be like, "What the
First
hell?"
Class.
It's
are
got
you
to be
talking
Enemy
about?
Unknown, right?
I think so too.
Yeah.
But what about X-Men? What's the X-Men's most infamous subtitles?
Mm.
I always think of
Okay,
like
that's
X-Men
good.
versus Street Fighter.
Yeah, there you
versus
go.
Like Marvel versus Cap.
XCOM versus
Marvel
Marvel.
versus
Marvel
Capcom. Good. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, Marvel
Oh
versus
my God.
Cardcom. Marvel versus
Avengers
Marvel
versus X-Men.
XCOM. Marvel versus XCOM.
Oh, that's funny.
Marvel-
It's just so obvious.
Yeah,
it's
Marvel
like, yeah, of
versus
course.
XCOM.
Dickheads. Like, that's the fucking. I'm sure there's been a preview for the game. with
Marvel
that
versus
written in it.
XCOM.
Owens
I
is
like
shaking
that.
his fist. You guys are losers.
Because it is Marvel versus XCOM.
It is.
Or yeah.
In that
There you
suit.
go.
Yeah.
Fuck.
Professor
Marvel
X,
versus-
2 minutes.
XCOM Xavier.
Marvel versus
Desperate, man.
XCOM.
I don't know
What's the
X-Men
school?
shit.
I'm the juggernaut, bitch.
What's
Let's just call it that.
the X-Men school called?
Yeah.
House of X.
Xavier School for Gifted Youngsters.
Xavier School for the gifted or something.
Yeah, gifted
Xavier
youngsters,
School
yeah.
for
Jake
gifted
Solomon
youngsters.
School of the Gifted.
for gifted
Gifted
suits.
Xavier School for gifted youngsters.
or X Mansion, technically, I guess.
Why don't we just call it "This game was cool, even though I hate Marvel"?
And then throw the thumbs up at
Award.
the end.
Yeah,
Oh, boy.
That award only really works for.
so good,
So I can't believe it's
so
not XCOM.
good. You'll forget. I can't believe it's not I can't believe it's not XCOM.
I can't believe it's
not
Marvel.
Marvel. I can't
I
believe.
can't believe it's not Marvel. Honestly,
My God, Jesus. The fuck? There's only how much is left on this? Is what 65 seconds, but it's not like anything happens after the time. We literally have we don't even have a safety blanket name here.
Yeah.
A safety net, a safety blanket. What?
Oh, man.
Oh my God.
I'm just looking up, like, Marvel comic
We're gonna
titles.
get it. It's gonna be
gonna be good
beautiful
when it
we get
happens.
guys. It's gonna be so.
gonna-
good.
yeah, it's
And
gonna be
anyone
the
who's
one that we
listening to the
look at next
podcast at this
year.
point, they're invested. I think they'd rather see us push through and
Yeah.
succeed and have a few minutes of silence.
If you're with us now, you're here
Yeah.
till the end.
The
There's no
ride or
fucking
die
way.
OGs are
You're-
here.
You have sunk cost fallacy like you have never had it in your life.
Yeah.
You are here, whether you like it or not. God.
Like, it could be a reference to, like, Infinity War or Endgame. Like, those titles are so recognizable that if we could find something that alludes to them, maybe that would be.
yeah.
That's a seed more than an idea.
I'm going back to Gambit because Gambit's the card guy in the Marvel universe. Does he say
That
anything?
is true.
You could
Card
also
man.
use Gambit somewhere in the title.
It is a game that is hard to explain why it's good, why you'd like it. There's a lot going on.
Maybe for you. I knew what
Not
I
for a
liked.
genius like me.
Not for me, the smart brain man.
Not for me, Professor Xavier.
Yeah, I'm not going bald yet. I don't think.
Oh man.
Suit powers.
Suit powers. Just call it suit powers.
Suit powers.
Oh.
That's where my brain is now. It's just turned into fucking
What
jelly.
it
and
wait,
it's
what's the Marvel side? Is it What If, the Marvel side series where they do like weird
That is one of them,
mashups? Okay. Is there like something with that? Like what it like X
What if the
what
game
if-
was good?
what if
what if-
XCOM was in I don't know. I don't
I don't know if that's an award name, but that is funny. I like that
know,
idea.
man. No, but the what if might be a good
Yeah.
seed. Because I associate that with Marvel and I don't even know Marvel.
It's complicated. It's
It's
complicated. It's kind of a quip as well. It's
Yeah,
complicated.
good point.
Oh, boy.
2023's best game of 2020.
It's just sitting there. It really is just sitting there.
Is lurking there. What about mutants? I guess that's specific to X-Men, but I was gonna say like this game is kind of a mutant. It like emerges. It's not like quite what you'd expect from a Marvel game. It's not quite what you'd expect from like a strategy game.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah,
It's
mutation.
That's true.
XCOM. Man.
Do you remember the world outside of these Game of the Year
I don't.
podcasts? I'm sorry.
We were talking about it in the break. We're so excited to play something other than these Game of the Year games. Like as soon as this
These
ends.
great games.
Yeah, these
that
really
came
good
out this
games that
year.
we all liked. I can't wait
Yeah.
to end this call and go install something else.
Shout out to Vampire Survivors who sent us those DLC codes.
Thank you to the
for
puppet
their-
for sending us those codes.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Thanks.
He's back there, right? Yeah.
He's over there. He's gonna get packed up. Yeah, and getting out of the studio in the next couple of days. Man. It's a shame it's not really good on Steam Deck or something because that would have
Oh,
ruined it.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
yeah. It runs okay on Steam Deck.
Is it? Yeah.
The-
Yeah, I can see it probably work.
30 FPS.
I haven't
A little
tried it.
slow.
I was gonna say the team deck award. 'Cause it's Team of Heroes
Team
and
deck? That's
card
funny.
games.
Team Deck. That's
That is pretty good.
Team Deck. Oh, Team Deck. Yeah.
Not
the
bad.
team.
Deck.
The
Deck.
team
Rubbing
deck.
my deck.
The team.
That
deck.
sounds like your
Sit on my
like
deck.
niece or
Is
nephew
any-
are like, "Can I borrow your Team Deck? I want to borrow
Yeah.
your Team Deck."
When you can pronounce it, you can borrow
Yeah.
it.
Oh, you can have it when you say it right.
Don't
Marvel
disrespect.
versus
it.
XCOM.
I wish there was
Marvel
a
versus
word that rhymed
XCOM
with Marvel vs. XCOM was pretty funny.
If we got nothing, I'm okay with that.
Marvel versus X. It's too much like the lead on it. Like I'm going to look up GameSpot's
I
review.
bet that's it. I bet that's it.
And that's
There's
probably
no
the
way.
fucking lead.
When you see
on the
none
top
of them,
it.
you have to use it.
Yeah,
That's the
too
rule.
much.
Let's just steal
Put yourself in
GameSpot's
a
lead
hole.
from
Marvel
GameSpot.
versus
I'm
XCOM.
gonna do it. Let's see what
Let's
it
see what
is.
it is.
XCOM. Oh my god, they went with XCOM Superhero Squad. It was right there.
Yeah,
I don't
see?
get that one.
Who wrote this? Jordan Ramey, who I think does a lot of theirs.
Yeah,
now.
but they gave Alan Wake
What
2
about
a 10 out of
IGN?
10, so
What are they?
not that reviewer, but GameSpot did.
The frequency at which 10 out of 10s are coming out of GameSpot since I left has not been unnoticed.
You got to get back there and be a hater. Forget it.
They
Exactly,
need haters like
exactly.
us.
I need.
Yeah.
If there was one thing I was good at, or we were good at, it was hating on other people's ideas. Hopefully, mostly management's. Hopefully.
It's kind of like the blade of GameSpot, you know?
Your concern was always 10 out of 10.
Shit.
Oh, boy.
How did they not do? What did you say? Marvel versus XCOM. I gotta say,
That is pretty good.
Yeah.
there must be a preview.
It
I
has
think you guys
Capcom,
like the most was
XCOM.
Blade.
Sure.
Does Blade have any good quotes that you could turn into an award?
Like some motherfuckers always try to ice skate up.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The game that succeeded at ice skating uphill.
Blade.
that's got to be for Arcane's Blade. We can't blow that one
good
now.
point. Yeah.
We're gonna have to,
Marvel
Right
versus
there.
XCOM. I didn't say Marvel Blast Ultra.
Just can't keep saying the
Blast
same thing.
Blast
Just
Ultra.
I mean,
whispering
I think
it
it's
in our
working.
ear,
Yeah.
like a siren's
Yeah.
call.
Yeah. It's toasted.
Oh, boy.
That's not bad.
Marvel Midnight's God, Sony's or XCOM's IGN's first preview. No, it's not XCOM, but a surprisingly enduring superhero RPG. It was right there.
Marvel
I'm
versus
gonna type in
XCOM.
Marvel versus XCOM and see if anything.
I'm telling you, you don't find it.
We
You
can
got
be
to
the
use
first. Think of all the hits.
it. Yep.
That's so true. Think about how many other people will Google that phrase, and they'll find
Yeah.
us.
Stan Lee will.
How has nobody written
Told
this
you.
down? This is
See,
that's
insane.
why we have to do it.
Frank is
It's
SEO
just so
pilled.
obvious, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
Jesus Christ! Literally, I type in Marvel versus XCOM.
See?
Am I typing versus wrong? Well, how would you do versus? VS
Yeah,
dot
VS
or
dot,
ver-
yeah.
Okay, wait. If
Marvel
you put it in
versus
quotes,
XCOM.
there's one. If you put Marvel versus XCOM,
Yes,
there's
one.
one
And it's
result.
that fucking
And it is an
Intel mini PC review.
review.
Yeah,
That's it.
and you know why it's there?
SEO.
Because in their fucking metadata, they accidentally put down Marvel versus XCOM 2.
Hell yeah.
It was a type, like they got brain wronged. They meant to write in Marvel versus
The only other person who
X-Men
came up
too.
with this was someone who had like a brain lapse as they were typing. That's how great we
Marvel
are.
How
versus
is-
XCOM.
This is like you invented the light bulb, and you're like, how has nobody else
Yes.
invented this?
It's that movie where the guy accidentally invented the Beatles music.
Yeah. Across the
Have you seen
universe.
that? Yesterday,
Yeah.
I think
Oh,
it's called.
Yesterday,
whatever it is.
Yeah. Yeah, where he's like, have you not heard of the Beatles? Everyone's like, no. And he's like, what the fuck? Like, what are you on about? And then he's like, oh, I'm going to become famous because I'm going to pretend I wrote all these Beatles songs.
I don't know. Marvel versus XCOM is growing on me.
I just want to, yeah, but it's
Yeah.
Marvel versus.
Yep.
Just do it.
Okay. The reason why I think it might work, this is me justifying something I hate. Okay.
Yeah.
This is me, this is me like with I'm disappointed in my child, but I'm going to make life easier. I'm going to create a narrative in which I am okay. I'm not talking about my actual child here. This is a fictitious child. This is what I'm doing. Marvel versus X, I think it maybe works because the thing that we have been talking about that is the point of contention is how we feel about how the game plays and how we feel about the IP.
That's good.
And that's where the tension is. And how we feel about it is actually different, right? Jesse has a different opinion than I have a different opinion to Jeremy. So in a way, the whole thing about this game, just justifying my addiction here, is that the interesting thing about is this game good, why this game is good, is that there is a conflict between the IP and the gameplay.
Mhm.
So in a way, Marvel versus XCOM
There you go.
works. Frank, you fucking did
What a
it, you
champion.
bastard.
Are you justifying it or explaining why it's the best?
Yeah. It sounds like it's a little bit of the latter.
Yeah, I guess I'm the only one that needed to go through that. You guys were all on board.
This game would have gotten more sales if that was the tagline.
That's
You know,
actually
Marvel's Midnight
that would've
Suns.
been a
It's
better
Marvel
title
versus
for this
XCOM.
game.
Yeah, Marvel. If they named it that, Marvel versus XCOM. Oh my God, fighting game fans would have played it.
I would
they would have been
movie
pissed.
theater
It looks-
on the cabinet.
Way better name. Way better name. Marvel versus XCOM.
I guess we have to call it the Marvel vs. XCOM Award.
It's so
we have
good.
do we have to do award? We
Yeah.
kind of do, because
Otherwise
otherwise
it's
it
just
doesn't make any
a
sense.
series of
XCOM.
words.
It's not even like a superlative.
Yeah, no.
It's just like
I'm-
a
I-
cheesy
XCOM
phrase.
Don't care.
It's
I
so
think it's
good.
funny.
Like an award.
But yeah, the verses explains the contention. I love it.
My
I love
face
Yeah.
hurts.
But like, it's not contention with the game. It's
Versus
contention with the people coming up with the award for the game.
It. Yeah, Marvel versus
Yeah,
XCOM.
yeah.
It's fine. I like it. It's funny.
I'm so annoyed. I'm just so disappointed with video game journalism. Right now.
See?
That's where I'm at. I can't believe.
That's why people
Nobody-
support this. This is where we're filling
That's,
in all
well,
the
that's
gaps.
why.
Yeah.
That's why we're gonna do some shit with Noclip Crew next year, because that's the fucking.
Oh, really?
Marvel versus XCOM. That's it. We got some video
else?
right there. If we
Yeah.
upload a video called Marvel versus XCOM, oh my
Dude,
God.
We're the
yeah,
gap
and we just
fillers,
make it
baby.
about
we
this
find the
game.
gaps and we fill them up with
Yeah.
content.
We're the
gap
call it-
fillers.
Did you just come up with a crew name for us called the Gap Fillers?
Yeah.
You said I can't believe no one has.
That's
come up with that.
amazing.
And it's
Fill
like an
that gap.
obvious.
The
we're
gap
gap
fillers.
fillers.
And it's like
Gap
40% of a
sounds like
sex joke.
fucking
Yeah,
sex
there you go.
fest
Yeah.
thing. Yeah, that's. I'm not.
I think,
I'm not sure. I
think
wanna
if
have
you
gap
use
fillers.
gap
Fillers,
fillers
I'm
and
like,
then
well,
anything
Gap
happens
list
with
is
no
also
clip.
in Tony Hawk.
Yeah.
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 Like the Gap
Yeah,
list.
Okay.
My business card. If I have Danny Edward Gap Filler, I'm not sure.
It sounds like you do tile work.
All right. Does
He's
it?
a wet worker. What?
Does it, Jeremy? All right. All right. We're done. We've done it. There are 11 games here, and they all have awards. They've all got great awards. And now we're going to read out the awards from start to finish. Slayer's X. Sorry, Frank. What's the full name of that game again?
Slayer's X Terminal Aftermath Vengeance of the Slayer.
Thank you. It has the Zane Lofton Lifetime Achievement Award. Final Fantasy 16 has Best AMV. Resident Evil 4 Remake has Master of Remaking. Typecast has the Stroke of Genius Award. Homebody has Closest to Home Award. Nice work there, Jeremy. Blasphemous 2 has Catholic Guilty Pleasure. Bomb Rush Cyberpunk has Best Dreamcast Game. Thumbs up emoji. Dave the Diver has the Hidden Depth Award. Baldur's Gate 3 has Most Immersive Sim.
Jeremy
Midnight
hates
Suns has Marvel versus XCOM Award. It's too late now. Stop it. Don't delete that. I'm going to set you back all to editor viewer only. And Alan Wake 2 has Boldest Flavor. Nice work, lads.
We did it.
These are good.
We
These are
did it.
good. These are, I think we're more unanimously satisfied with these than last year's. I feel like we're getting better at this the more we move on. Yeah. That's it. It was funny. We could have called Signalis got the survival horror.
We could have just
Homecoming
used that
last
again.
year.
I
We
know.
could have just
I
given
had that
to
thought.
Homecoming.
Too. I had that thought.
Because we got to figure out who gets next year's Marvel versus XCOM
Yeah, yeah.
award.
Dude.
These are all
Suicide
annual
Squad
awards.
kill the Justice League.
Yeah.
They'll,
Oh, yeah. Is that
it's
not
next
out yet? Is
year.
that
I know
out
it's not. I
It
can't.
is?
say
It got
anything.
delayed or
Never mind.
something.
Yeah, it's delayed till next year, February.
yet? Okay. Well, there you go. All right. That's it. We did it. We were free. The magic shackles have come off for another year. We are now free to roam the world as we see fit. Thank you all, as ever, for playing all these video games. We seem to get good coverage this time as well. Played a bunch of them. Congratulations to all of our winners. I also actually want to mention our honorable mentions before we go. Fantastic games in their own right, but just did not make the cut. Moselina, Hi-Fi Rush, Cocoon, Street Fighter 6, Jusant, Chance of Sonar, Terra Neil, Lies of P, and Dredge. They almost all made it in, but did not make the cut in the end. But yes, if you are looking for games to play over the holiday break or anytime next year, 2024, we cannot recommend these games highly enough. And that's it. Thank you very much for listening to our podcast. Thank you very much for supporting Noclip over the past year and all the previous years before that. Next year is going to be very exciting over in these parts. We're trying a lot of stuff you've seen before, a lot of new stuff, new documentaries, big stuff, maybe some new podcast stuff. You'll have to keep your ears and eyes to the ground. If you are a patron, there will be a patron video going up on Christmas Day where I talk a little bit about the year that went by and mostly looking forward to what's going on in 2024. So if you're all interested, go support the show and go watch that video. All right. Shall we say bye-bye, lads?
Bye-bye, lads.
We did it. Bye bye, lads.
All right. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye. See you next year. Bye.